Welcome, 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 one and all, to yet another episode of WIC TV, a cross ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, tonight we have a show for you. As everyone knows, this month is famous for one thing: Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. Did you guys know that it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month? Well, now you do.
I've just been made aware. Yes.
Now you do, okay? Thank you for the Prime sub, Cardis. We're going to get to the content in a second, I promise. But memes aside, it is Pride Month as well, but it's also Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I think both deserve a space and both deserve to be talked about. But in honor of that, I've decided to host this panel that Cham brought to me. Cham really wanted to talk about men's issues, and she thinks, and I'll let her speak for herself in a minute, but a lot of men's issues, in fact, most of them, are actually the failings of men. Men failing to adapt, men failing to support each other, men failing to get with the times and do what is needed to do to rise up to the occasion and succeed. Uh, Not everyone agrees with that. So we are going to have a discussion on it. Men's failures. Why are men failing? Why are we being held back? And what is the solution? Do women bear any responsibility in this? We'll find out. With that, let's get started. And I'm going to give each of these guests a chance to introduce themselves and a brief opening statement. And we'll start with Cham. Go ahead. Give us what you got. Beautiful. You're muted. No one can hear you.
Oh, not muted, just no sound.
Oh,
Okay, it's fixed.
Oh.
Hello?
okay, great.
I had my other mute
Excellent. Was
on.
that men's fault too, by the way?
100%. I'm adding that on the list, okay?
Okay. Give us what you
Just
got.
wait till we get our camps ready. I'm just joking. Uh, yeah, I think a lot of issues stem down to men's personal issues, things they need to fix within themselves, and they really need to stop blaming women for them being emotionally inept and unable to understand that the rest of society is moving forward and progressing while they're still wanting to be held back. And so, yeah.
Okay, well, thanks for being here, and I'm sure we'll get into it as we go. Next up, we have Cohort. Second time on my channel. Glad to have him back. Go ahead, give us what you got.
Yeah, glad to be here. I think it's ridiculous on its face to imply that the complaints, the basis for the complaints that are being made by the majority of the men making them are because that they're just upset that they're being left behind. I don't think there's any concrete evidence of that. I think it's mostly a feeling based opinion, as will probably be made manifest once we get into the discussion more. I think there's a lot of good reason to believe that these men are experiencing genuine hardships that are worth looking at and go beyond just a hurt pride. And I'm going to do my best to try to outline why that is. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here, and again, we'll get into it as we go. Next up, I think he's been on my show before, but it's been quite a while. Dr. Darko, what do you have?
Hi, I'm Dr. Darko. Yeah, I think men have been falling behind in society in like numerous ways for the past like 50, 60 years. And yeah, I don't know. The women have been like outpacing them, and there's just like women's standards like have gotten higher technically, but like but they're still at the end of the day like looking for an equal. But yeah, they're like climbing the ranks of society a little bit more effectively than men are.
Sure. Okay, I guess we'll talk about it when we get there. Next up. Oh, excuse me, Ruby, please, before I die of choking, I'm going to keep it. Go ahead.
It's the secondhand smoke again. It's just seeping through. My name is Ruby. So I think that men do face a lot of real valid obstacles and issues that have a lot to do with how incredible, like, vastly our society has changed over the last 100 years between the industrial revolution, the technological revolution, the influence of wealth inequality, the depreciation of wages, housing prices going up. I say all this because all these things connect to men's mental health and their ability to perform and gain genuine self-esteem and confidence uh, through by being able to perform, like, provide for themselves and their family used to be a main source of that men were getting. And then so when you take away that and all these other changes, I think it's a struggle to adapt. I don't think that women are the problem. I think that women can be a part of the solution and feminists can be a part of the solution by including men in these conversations and not belittling them when they talk about their issues and really trying to examine where we can both do better. So,
Well, thank you for being here, and I really appreciate you. Last but certainly not least, Xerxes, go ahead.
So, I'm going to preface by saying I fundamentally disagree with Cham's premise and her conclusions, but I'm going to take this
Shocker.
debate a little bit differently. In fact, while I believe my best good friend Cohort will argue that she is wrong factually, I want to take a different side while I argue with my friend here. What if we were to grant 100% that Cham is correct and that men are indeed falling behind and men indeed have all these different issues and problems? I want to challenge hypothetically, why is there not a heroic spirit in women to help these men rise to the occasion? That's what I want to see is going on here. So, again, I fundamentally disagree, but in certain parts of this conversation, I will give her the ghost and I will see why aren't women virtuous and honorable people and helping men if they are indeed falling behind, as she proclaimed.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
it's not our fucking job to do that. Like, you a grown
And that's
ass
how you're gonna
man.
start. So
Yeah,
you're just gonna start with no
Oh,
100%.
grace,
hold on,
no
let
grace.
her
Do you want me
let
to
her
Okay.
start.
want me
Let her
to be
start. Let
sweet?
her cook. Go ahead. Cook away.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to like fall back on women for you to expect them to help you out on your personal issues.
Oh, but if
I think
women do that,
your
if
I
women use
think
young men and their friends as therapists, that's fine. There's no issue there.
as therapists,
If women ask
are they
men to move
actually
heavy
going to
objects for
therapists?
them, I mean, I'm just kind of curious though, right? If women primarily select men because they make more money than them and want help paying their bills, that's
What?
okay.
What?
But if man says, why can't a woman, treat me a little bit well? Why can't she be kind to me? Why can't she be sweet to
To
me?
to
Then it's
to
it's
to,
not
to be
our job,
to
is
be
what you
clear,
tell me?
also, what he outlined was not that you would solve the man's problem for him. It was that you would give grace and patience and support as he's trying to better himself in whatever way you deem and
Bingo.
he deems is necessary to be
You
bettered. And not
you
that you
should
would just come in and fix him.
Yeah,
you
but like, at
shouldn't
what
jump
threshold
into yeah.
is that like way too much though? I don't know. Like, I feel like no one would argue that men have like been behind in like emotional intelligence for ever, um, and like 99% of men are dealing with that. Like they have to do a lot more work than I feel like you're suggesting. Like I don't know.
You're
We
saying
can
women would have to do? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah.
I was
I mean,
just gonna
when
say
you're
Okay.
asking women for grace and peace, like that
hmm
is great when you're like, when you've done a lot of the internal work and like, you're putting like,
So
giving
you have to be
pushing
excellent
the rough
first, and
edges.
then women can give you grace
No,
and
you have
peace.
to be
But that,
like pretty all right first, and like, then
and then okay. But if
do
you're
you
in a
do
yeah,
you, do
position
you
of
have that same
weakness,
criteria for women when men are interacting with women? Do you have that same criteria
yeah.
that women need to observe a baseline of competence before they deserve grace and patience?
Well, it's not that. It's just like I feel like there's an undue amount of emotional labor that you're asking for out of like the general community of women
Mhm.
than is being
but
let on
feminists
because
didn't
like
ask for emotional labor from males as they literally reverse the position of society to get to this point here. That wasn't too much.
I wanna make sure everyone gets a voice here, and I wanna make sure that Champ's able to
Mhm.
finish her point, right? And then I
Okay.
wanna get
Absolutely.
Ruby's thoughts in it as well. But to be clear, Cham, are you saying that when you say that it's not women's job to help men, can you elaborate on that a little bit, please?
Yeah, I think when it comes to extreme mental health for men, I think they need to acknowledge that they have it, and I think they need to seek professional help. And I don't think you should expect those around you to stick around for long if you have like extremely toxic behavior from your mental health issues, because that ends up draining everyone else around you. And you should surround yourself with people that support you and love you and will help you. But if you're at like the bottom of your health and then you're expecting people to just cater to your issues without you actually taking the time to like go get your mental health checked and all that, and then you're pushing that all on your friend or your partner and stuff, that's just you're bringing them down with the ship.
I wanna ask Ruby, what are your thoughts here when it comes to, is it a woman's job or women's job to help men? So again, we have a situation which we'll just
Mhm.
posit to for the sake of argument, that
Yeah,
men are falling
sure.
behind socially, economically, they're struggling with their mental health. As a general rule, men are suffering. To what
Mhm.
extent do women bear any responsibility to help men who are struggling? Go ahead.
I mean, I would like to hold people to a higher moral standard in which everyone wants to help each other instead of like tallying like, well, men do this, hey, but women really do that, and then back and forth, and it just this kind of like tallying of who has it worse rather than seriously reflecting on, the obstacles that they're facing. Like, it can be confusing, I imagine, for a man to be told, express your feelings more, but then in the next breath to be told that, oh, we don't have to give you our emotional labor to be your therapist. So I feel like, and like both of those things are like valid. It's just such a huge conversation that we're not making space for all these little micro conversations to happen. Remember, I'm losing the plot. So anyway.
Yeah, so if I can extend, let me say I extend a bit of an olive branch and grace to Cham, that perhaps there might be some men that are definitely down in the dumps, right? Let's just say they've been defeated by life. They don't want to try. Let's sprinkle in they're overweight, they're smelly, they're literally in their mom's basement. Let's say that those men exist, right? You, I would imagine, want that man to just suffer the consequence of his actions, and it's totally up to him to get out of there. Would that be a fair understanding of how you feel about that characterization?
No, I think they should get the mental health that they need. They need to recognize that they're the ones having the issue, and then they need to put effort into fixing that. They need to
So the answer is
go to
yes
the
then.
That's what he said. That's what he said. He just
Yeah.
didn't.
So the
Yeah,
answer would be
he shouldn't have
yes.
phrased it exactly the same. But yeah.
yeah. If you're at the like, what do
Mhm.
you like? Are you wanting like women to like pay for your therapy session? What are you expecting?
I don't know.
Not at
Okay.
all.
So,
It's
so wait. Can I jump in real quick? So
Mhm.
there's still a miscommunication here. Okay. So to be clear, and I speak for me, I feel like I can speak for Xerxes. I feel like I can speak for any man who's anything like us, who takes extreme ownership over their lives, their mental health, their fitness, their job, etc. There's no expectation for women to come in to pay for therapy, to save me, to pull me out of the hole. That's not what's being requested. That's not what's being suggested.
Mhm.
I think I'm not even thinking. I know that what Xerxes is saying is in the process of trying to become a better man or finding yourself at your rock bottom or anywhere near your rock bottom, you would hope that there would be some grace and understanding from the opposite sex that you eventually would like to court and be with in a committed relationship, rather than just telling you, ha, sucks to be you, sucks to be a sucky man, fix it, get it together, you're disgusting, or any flavor of that, right? Which is a prevailing opinion, a prevailing theme that comes up a lot when we talk about these kind of men, these men that are like in the trenches at the bottom, so to speak, right? There is not a lot of grace, there's not a lot of understanding, there's not a lot of empathy. It does become a sort of, well, either through the patriarchy, you deserve it, right? Even if you didn't do it, other men made your situation like that, so it's you guys' fault, you guys figure it out. There's a lot of energy like that. I think all that's being suggested is, instead of that, could there not be some general support and grace? And if you are in a platonic or non-platonic relationship with a man like that, and you can provide some kind of support, that's great too. But the idea is not that you come in with money and like full on 24/7 commitment and
So,
just fix him.
to be clear, if
Yeah.
anyone wants to send me money, man or woman, I will let that happen. Okay, I'm putting that out there, that that's a thing that you can do if you'd like to support the channel.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I
Except for
guess,
Win. Except
yeah,
for
yeah,
Win.
yeah. But I guess
Right, because oh, go ahead.
oh, sure, sure. But to your side, right? To Cohort Xerxes, um, you understand that there are, on the flip side of the coin, right? That there are plenty of men online and off who do have a double standard when it comes to how they treat women, who, like women posting their L's, who extend no
Mhm.
grace when a woman has made some mistakes and wants to kind of
Mhm.
get back. We talked last
I can
week,
speak to
or
that. Mhm.
yeah, let me finish out before I pass it on
Mhm.
to you. But not last week, but a couple weeks ago, we talked about the OnlyFans star who repented, came to God, or at least allegedly did so, and was looking for grace to get back, I guess, in. And thank you, Cham Girl, for the 5 gift subs. Appreciate it. That's women supporting men, how we like to see it. But
You're welcome.
yeah, but like, almost no man, at least in certain spheres, gave her any grace. They didn't. So why do we expect any from them? Go ahead.
I shall explain. Okay. Now, I'm gonna make a video about this. It should be coming out pretty soon. Um, the issue is with Nala particularly. Now, we can go from Nala particularly to also expand that there's very little grace for sex workers, and if you want to go more to that, we can stay there. But if we talk about Nala specifically, there's a big reason why very many people wouldn't give her grace, and that is because she actually has a track record of being deceptive. Okay, she has a track record of putting on a performance and seeking attention and validation. Right?
I
That
don't
is
think
her
that's not why
character.
people
Right?
weren't giving her grace. She was
Okay,
going viral because people
so
love
let's
shitting. They're like,
so
"Ha, look at the
mm-hmm,
OnlyFans stars,
mm-hmm.
she found God." They love
Exactly.
shitting on sex
But
workers. As
notice,
someone who's
but here's the
been an
thing.
OnlyFans
But
model,
notice what I
and I
said.
try to give,
But Ruby,
grace too, but
but Ruby,
go yeah.
notice what I said. Nala, and then we can move on to sex workers in general. So
Okay,
first, I started with
Nala,
Nala.
I'm
We can move
disagreeing
to
with
sex
you on
workers in
Nala.
general.
I don't think
Okay.
that's why people
So
were not showing her grace. I don't think it's because they're like, "Oh, upon
perhaps.
further research on this
So
Nala character," I
well,
just think
well, from
that's
what I've seen, that's definitely the case. But let's move on to a lack of grace with sex workers in particularly. One of the biggest issues that people don't acknowledge when it comes to the male female dynamic is that women have more sexual power than men, right? The problem is when it comes to a sex worker or when it comes to a lot of these young men on the internet that have no grace, is they're coming from a deficit, seeing a huge abundance. They see a woman taking advantage of what even would be their own perceived weakness, right? So it's just pure villainy. There's no understanding that perhaps the sex worker might be a depressed, sad, low self-esteem woman too, because all they see is a woman who will lie and deceive and take advantage of what is their weakness. So the reversal of women posting their L's, that guy or that degree, that whole lack of grace, is coming from that perspective. Now, to be fair, do I think that men should be more heroic in the sense that they take a step back, have more grace, and say, let's try to understand these women and get to a better state? 100%. But unless sex workers or women and feminists in general stop and understand where the source that's coming from, then they're just twiddling their thumbs and spitting in the wind, because you can't stop that force without understanding that these men are coming from a deficit. They're coming from a rage and frustration that was built up by women taking
Do you think
advantage of them
women don't
sexually.
experience
As
deficits in society too, though? Like, I'm willing to
well,
give you that
absolutely,
there
I
are a
do.
lot of issues
Yeah,
but it seems like you are kind of holding them to a different standard.
I'm holding the dudes who said posting their L's on different standards. Is that what you're saying?
Uh, Sorry, I smoked weed before this. I probably shouldn't have, so now I just forgot what I
No,
was
it's
gonna
okay.
say. Sorry.
No, you need to. I'll give you.
You said
You can
something that pissed
clarify.
me off though, and it was like right in my fucking head. Sorry, so you always do this, man.
No, come on. I don't always
You
do it.
know, and you
No,
know what?
so,
Listen, I we had a great. I had Zers on my
Mhm.
channel, and I really do, want to extend an olive branch, and I really do, as a feminist, want to is reach out to men and show that the grace and there's like I get what you're saying, and I actually am on the same page with Cohort too. I want to be on the same page with that. I'm not always existing in my highest self, but I do think that's a good general direction to give, but you have to be understanding too that women, when you say
Mhm.
women have all the power in sex, like, yes, we are the more selective sex, so we have more power in selection, but I don't think it's necessarily gives the full picture to just say that women have more power in sex, because we also face a lot of sexual trauma, a lot of sexual harassment and
Mhm.
assault that women go through that doesn't make them feel super powerful.
So
But yeah,
so
and
so
dating on Tinder, yeah, I can get
Mhm.
dick in a
can I
minute. So
can I say
power,
something
power,
really quick
power.
about that?
Woohoo.
Yeah, go ahead, Cohort. Then I wanna
Yeah.
get Darko in, and just Noya Psycho. Thank you for the prime sub, and thank you for the additional sub, Cham. So far on the scale, women have supported men much more tonight monetarily than men.
Mhm.
So men,
That's a
do
small
better.
sample size.
Okay, do better.
Don't
I
worry, I'll
guess
donate 100K by then. I'll win.
women are just doing better financially, I guess.
Cohort. What do you got?
So first thing I'll say is I want to agree with you that we don't always operate as our higher self. Sometimes we do give in to the gender war thing. That literally we're just trying to pick and pull at different flaws that we identify in the opposite sex, and that's definitely not us operating at top peak capacity. So the truth is, there is space for a man to support a woman and a woman to support a man, and there's no argument about that. But I do think that there's more of a cultural incentive to tell a man, figure your shit out, not my problem, than there is to tell a woman that. And I don't know how you could argue otherwise. That as if that's how we treat women. Like we tell women to figure their shit out, just not my problem. Like that's not even like men that you wouldn't even call like super decent or like really nice. When they see a woman in need, sometimes they switch up. Like they become
Mhm.
available. They become, and that's for men that are not even, for any man that is responsible or is decent. I mean, it's second nature for him to
Yeah,
kind of
but
jump up and try to help a woman.
to challenge
So
that a minute before
mhm.
before we move on from
It- it-
that,
it-
like,
yeah,
like
and I had one
I
other
know
point. It's
we're
very
gonna get to
similar to the
that, but
first.
before we
Okay,
get
okay,
to
okay.
it, so we can address point by point, right? Like
Yeah.
when that happens and men switch up, you know what that's called? It's called simping. There are derogatory terms made for that, right?
No,
White
I
knighting,
didn't, I
simping,
don't
all
mean,
these
I didn't
things,
mean
right?
in the context of trying to get something out of a relationship. What I meant is a man that's normally, he's less, he's more to himself, maybe more selfish, more less minded towards the sort of protector provider archetype as a normal way of living. But he sees a woman in need of some kind of need,
Mhm.
whether that be literally she's getting
Did
mugged or something, or just like a
they do
woman
a
he knows in
study where
life.
more men
But I
like
think,
leave their wives and girlfriends after they like have cancer and shit like that?
put a pin on that, Cham, because we'll challenge that in a moment. But Cohort, I think what Wick is saying is that on the internet, if I understand,
Yeah.
when a dude is supportive to a woman, he's
Mhm.
criticized as a simp. Is that what you're saying, Wick?
Yes,
Oh,
regardless
that's
of
what
Mm-hmm.
you mean. Okay,
Okay.
whether
okay, okay.
why
Mm-hmm.
he is doing it or not, like regardless of his
Mm-hmm.
intentions,
Yeah.
and this is done from both men and women, so this is not a gender thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? But men
Hmm.
who do outwardly support women are seen as simps, white knights, creeps, etc. Right? They're called
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
all sorts of things, and
Yeah.
and
So I
that's
think.
a yeah, but that's not just coming from women. That's coming from
Mm-hmm.
men too, right? That's coming from
Mm,
all sides. But
yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
want you to, if you have a thought on this, go ahead. But I know Cohort had one more point he wanted
Yeah,
to
just one
Mm-hmm.
other point. It's just on the bit about sexual trauma and things of that nature. So again, I mean, this goes without saying, right? Any decent man, any man with any kind of principles is going to be against any kind of forcing himself on a woman, anything like that, right? I think it's always important to remember that any man that does that is existing outside the margins of our polite and civilized society. So when we, and they're a minority. So when we talk about them, we have to remember those animals are over there and we're all over here. And when they do
I
no
don't
no
think that's necessarily true, though. Everyone has the
let me
capacity to
finish.
behave in
It's
wildly immoral ways. There are
Well,
people who are
we're not
capacity,
just
opportunistic,
but
talking
and
about
maybe,
we're
yeah.
not just
oh,
talking
this
about
girl's passed
capacity.
out at a party. There
We're
are
not just
people
talking about
who you
capacity.
would think maybe are abstaining and then aren't in those situations. But I
Right.
don't think your average man is a rapist. I would broadly
Mhm,
agree that when we're looking at these statistics, we're looking at a tiny percent of like
mhm.
sociopaths, who live
Yeah.
outside.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about sexual trauma, like it's a little more pervasive in societies, than just like, oh, the bad rapists over there, that's not
can you
us,
give us an example of that if you're comfortable with it? And also, we got 45 seconds left on the hype train on Twitch. Make me some money, gang. Donate on Twitch. Give us bits and subs. And thank you for the $2 keto burrito there. Now a man has donated. But can we get a donation from more men? That would be nice and helpful. Thank you for the $2. But yeah, can you give
Stop
us an
being broke.
example of what you mean when you say
an
that kind of
example.
harassment, sexual assault stuff is
Oh,
much more common?
yeah.
Elaborate.
I'd say that even men who really don't want to hurt women sometimes accidentally do things that are make women sexually uncomfortable. And there is a lot of gray area in, like, sex is so complex, consent is so complex that it's really easy for people to miss certain cues and accidentally cause trauma to someone. That I think that's a very plausible thing that happens, especially when you include like drugs and alcohol. I think there's situations where women can feel really traumatized by uh, a sexual encounter, even if the man is not perceiving himself as raping her. And we need like more words to like describe these things rather than just like it's rape or not. Like, but yeah, I would say it is more
I
pervasive than just
agree.
like the rapists that are like jumping out of the bushes.
Yeah.
And when you talk about harassment, I'm harassed every day I walk down the street. And it doesn't really bother me anymore. I used to get really psyched out, like, oh, the men hate me. I can't even walk down the fucking street, like, holy shit, like, and it
So
felt
wouldn't that be
so
the
like
opposite if they're trying
trivial.
to smash? They wouldn't be hatred unless you think men
Well,
just
there
have
there is
this
like
evil
there can
desire
be
to have sex with women they hate. Is that
no,
would
no.
you would
Well,
you
but there is actually absolutely a link between sexual desire and hate. Are you serious? Hate fucking someone. Like if you look, there's a lot
but
of
you would
porn
have
that's
to know the person. It's not a
extremely violent
stranger.
towards.
But but
But
that's like toxic
I'm
relationships,
telling you,
right? That's
Zeus,
not.
I'm telling you every day when I walk down the street, because I don't have a car, so I walk down the street a lot. I
Hmm.
am harassed sexually, and I don't think it's by men with my best interest or
Hmm.
just want to please me.
But
A lot
my
of
response
sex and
is that
sex,
it would be
zip it.
hatred,
A lot of
right?
sex and
Like,
sex interactions is an
mhm.
exchange of power. You know,
I
that's what's
want
happening.
to I want to do
So
a
power
couple
can be
things.
heavily entrenched with
I want to
hatred.
do a couple
Mhm.
things here before you go. I know you're bursting at the seams, Cersei, but I want to do a couple things. So $5 first for
Okay.
Matt and Zero to say to the
Mhm.
women. If men just sit by and watch women being attacked, what do you expect men to do in that situation? Should women just protect themselves? And CB says something that was really interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts because it plays into what you're saying here. Women in today's society have now become the predators. They basically wear nothing at the gym or outside, so they are asking for it at that point. When you
No,
say that you get
Gotta be a
harassed,
troll. There's
Mhm.
no
when
way.
you say
Like, come
when
When
you
on.
he
say
when he
that,
says asking for it, I don't think he means like rape. Obviously,
well,
I do think
CB
he
is
means
the
like
Mhm.
she,
being
first of all.
commented on and stuff.
But yes,
Mhm.
but to your point, Ruby, when you say that you're harassed every day when you're going to work, what do you mean by
Not
that?
like in a violent way, but it's more just like I have. I get yelled like people are like, look at that fucking dump truck, you know, shit like that. Where
So you have like a fat
most of the
ass? Is
time I'm
that just?
like, yeah, basically
Damn,
I've always
catcalling
struggled
right
with this.
here.
Like,
Holy shit.
no, seriously, I've always
Well, maybe
struggled
she
with
does.
these.
I mean, you
When I'm
got the
on
wham
these
speed.
panels, I've always wondered if I should pull the camera back just so that people can know they have a fat ass. 'Cause I think that is very important. But
Mhm.
I do, yeah, I, you
But
know,
this is so.
I'm
But this is
No,
why I
I'm
voluptuous,
want to
still
talk
okay?
asking.
about this.
Hold on, hold on,
And
hold on, hold
the
on.
people,
Mhm.
I'm still asking for an example. Like you say you're
So was
harassed.
she
I want to know
gay?
what's
all right, an
happening.
example. I just told you someone telling me I have a fucking dump truck when I walk down the street.
Is
I
that
just,
a
it
harassment?
doesn't, you know, it's not the. Excuse me?
Is that
You don't think
harassment?
that's sexual harassment?
If someone said I had
Let
a
me.
nice
Let me.
beard, is that sexual
You
harassment?
know, wait, do you not know what sexual harassment? It doesn't mean like what do you? What's confusing
Hold
about
on.
that? When someone
So
yells
So a
sexually
comment
explicit things,
that is
that's the definition of
sexually,
sexual
yeah,
harassment.
explicit in nature is sexual harassment. That's the definition
Yes.
we're operating on, right? But this is the thing, right? So while I might agree
Biggest
with you
issue?
100%,
No. Most time I don't mind it. I'm
no.
like, yeah, I have a
Hmm.
fucking dump truck. So what? Yeah,
Hmm.
great, awesome.
But here's the issue
Wait,
that I'm having,
so
right? It's
before y'all get, and I will
no.
let y'all go as deep as you want. I just want
Hmm.
to clarify. So whenever you walk down the street every day,
Yep.
random
Every
men
day. Yes.
just
Yes.
yelling at you, you got a
Yes.
fatty just
A
every
hundred.
day.
Yes. Every single
You
fucking
must
day.
really
And
have a fat ass, bro. I'm.
I do. But also, I don't have a car. I live in a city. I live in a
Hmm.
rough area. I walk all the time. So yes,
No,
every day that I
I'm
do
gonna give
encounter
you the
that,
ghost.
it doesn't bother me anymore because I don't
Hmm.
live in fear of the boogeyman patriarchy out to get me and rape me every minute. I don't operate under that kind of
No,
feminism. You know,
I
I
want to
live
give
in
you the ghost.
reality where
I trust
I'm
you.
safe. I don't feel unsafe necessarily. I'm just saying that.
Hmm.
Uh, anyway,
I trust you. So what I wanted to kind of chat about though, which I find interesting, is the projection that the motivation behind these men saying this, right, is because
I
they
don't
want
think
to
for
harm you or
I'm just
hurt
saying
you,
that
right? So
it can be intrinsically linked with hatred. I don't think that the goal most of the time is to harm me. I think most of the time they're just horny, but I mean, I you can
yeah,
look at it
so
as a display of power too, to be like,
is it?
I can yell at you, and what the fuck are you gonna do? And you know why I know
You
it's linked with hatred?
reply.
Because when I say like, hey, I don't like that, then
Hmm.
the situation escalates. And you can believe me or not, I will
So
grant you
here's the
so much
thing.
shit for men, but like
Hmm.
I
that's
think the
just my
conversation
So
is
reality.
at risk. I think the conversation is at risk of devolving
And I have a
into
dump truck. I can't help it.
something that is not meant to be.
I
I don't.
I
I'll
want I want
elaborate.
to
Yeah,
let Xerxes finish his point though, and then I do have some more super chats, and I want to maybe
no
get this
the
back on track.
reason why.
Yeah.
So the reason why, right? Like let me say I grant the full ghost, right? That this is a daily occurrence. This is something that happens to you. When you initially brought
Do you
up the
think I'm
example,
lying?
Taylor, no, I gave it to
Am
you.
I
I
lying?
gave it
You
to you
got
100%. I gave it to you
hold on.
100%.
You gotta let him
Right, you gave
finish.
it to
Ruby,
me,
Yeah.
but
Ruby,
like with a
Ruby,
kind
no.
of weird
Okay,
caveat that was
hold
like,
on, Ruby.
right.
No, and
No, that's
like
just the way
usually I'm having
I
to
speak.
tell
I
Xerxes to
believe
shut
you.
up, but Xerxes, go ahead.
So I believe you. I believe you wholesale, Ruby, 100%. The issue that I'm having, right, is when you brought up the example initially, it was to suggest that the males are doing this, right, for negative or nefarious purposes. But I don't believe that for a second. I think it might be rude, sure, I'll
I
grant you
don't
that. But
I
I
don't
don't
think it's
think
malice
that
or I
the
don't think most
intent.
people operate
Okay,
with that as their motivator.
so
So that was a
okay,
misunderstanding of what I was saying, or I wasn't clear,
okay.
but I don't believe that. So I'm not going to argue that.
Okay. So that means we can't use like street harassment as an example of like nefarious actions of males if you don't think that's why they're doing
I'm
it.
saying it could be, but as a broader or like
Well,
representation
Can
of
we
that's
like
what
can
I'm
we return
saying.
to
So we
talking about
can't. Mhm.
men's health
Yeah,
needs? Can we
can we
return to that?
I,
yeah,
I
yeah, we're
think
getting
I think but
sidetracked.
I think
Yeah.
this is important. No, no, no,
I don't
no,
care
no, no.
about
This
it.
is important. No, 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 no. We can't move on. This is important. Let me explain why this is important. I'm sorry, wait.
Okay.
The reason why this is important is because this is a great example of how we demonize male sexuality from go. Just from go. The way that men
What? Do you
interact
think
with
so?
women.
You
Here's the thing.
think that
But
that's
this is
representative of
but
male
this is
sexuality?
I
This is
do.
a minority
I
of
hold
men
on.
who
But
harass. That's not male
that's not Matt.
sexuality.
But that's the problem, Ruby. That's not how you presented that. Now you're saying that it's a minority. You presented it as a behavior of
I
men.
didn't know that I
One of the
had to
biggest
literally, like a
problems. No, you
child,
have to.
hold your
You have
hand
to.
and lay
You
out
have to. I'm gonna
basic
tell you
facts.
why.
Like,
I'm
Oh
gonna tell
my
you why. I'm gonna
God.
tell you
there's just
why.
not all
I'm gonna
men.
tell you
I
why.
didn't
Okay.
Let me
think
tell you
that.
why.
Have you seen
I'm
my
gonna throw
channel?
But I
I
have
talk to
to.
autogynephiles
Mhm.
all day.
boom,
Uh,
boom. Throwing a flag on the play. Throwing a flag on the play, gang. Both of you. Enough. We get it. I understand. You can't yell at over each other all the time. No one can hear a thing that either of you are saying. Great, awesome, good. I'm going to unmute you and you're going to behave. Cool, cool. Okay, Xerxes, make your point, but then we need to get back on track. I do have some
Mhm.
things to do. Yeah.
So this is why it was important for me, and I apologize if you guys feel like this went left field, but the reason why it's important for me to kind of talk about just the fact that this example was used is because as we just saw that Ruby suggested that it's a minority of males who behave this way. However, the collective consciousness of men is a worry and a fear of approaching or talking to women, and that makes us, a lot of us, me included, feel like we're doing something wrong just for wanting to engage with women in a sexual way or in a romantic or relationship type way. This is where we
That
lead
has
back to
nothing to
my
do with
friend
street
Cham.
harassment,
Now,
though. That's,
now, but it does because it's the example used to denigrate young men who haven't done anything
I'm
wrong. So let's
describing,
go
yes, it's
back
a minority
to
of men,
Cham.
but yes, it's
So
like
hold
it
on.
is like
So hold on.
broadly the
So
female
hold on.
experience. So
So
it's,
this is
it's
the
important to
issue,
talk about.
right? So this is why I want to go back to Cham, right? So Cham, understanding that this is a feeling that these young men have, that they feel like they've done something wrong even when they haven't. How would you address that male? What would you say to this male? Would you tell him, "Nah, suck it up, you'll be all right"? Or would you have the grace to actually have this conversation and understand that perspective?
I think men need to be taught that catcalling is inappropriate. There isn't a place for that at all. Women do not like that. It's weird. It's creepy. Don't fucking do it.
Here,
I
There are
hold
now
on,
better
now
hold on.
that's
No,
a
ways
no,
of
no, no,
perfect
no, no.
approaching
response.
women.
Okay, okay,
I
enough.
have to cut her off.
No, you don't. You don't. Let her
Okay.
finish, and then you can go. I promise
Okay.
you, I'm going to be much more quicker. Like, okay, you're all interrupting each other. I get it, but we need to get past this.
Mhm,
Cham, finish your point. Xerxes can respond, and
mhm.
then we need to get past this. Go ahead.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think we need, if you're talking about this whole thing about how to approach women and stuff, that is not the way to do it. I don't know where you got that idea. About 99% of women do not like that. It's uncomfortable. There are better, more appropriate ways to approach women, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. So I apologize. I set up a gotcha. I just showed a problem and weakness that young men have. And Cham didn't even stop to even address that. She said, "Oh, you think that catcalling's fine? It's not. Moving on."
No,
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 that the
I said there are
conversation wasn't
better ways.
about men,
No, no,
but
I said there are
exactly.
better
But
ways of
it,
approaching women. That's your
exactly.
solution to not being
It,
a
it,
catcalling. Is that what
Can
you're
I
wanting?
exactly.
can I jump in? Can I jump in? I really want to bring us
It-
back to the conversation
Well, let
of
me read
no,
my super
the larger
chats,
conversation.
and then we will bring it
Okay.
back. I promise. I
Yes, sir.
promise. Okay. $2 from Evil Minion. What's up with women's teachers and male students? Thank you for the $2. $2 from Robe Life. There, now Robe has donated. Thank you, Robe. Appreciate it. And $10 from Psychonaut. Can we sit back and see that this convo is about men's health and we are talking about women's problems? Thank you for the $10, Psychonaut. But I guess to get us back on, oh, and Soyaddle, $5. Should we just defy discarding ill women like we justify discarding men who fall ill? Alternatively, let's take today's question more seriously. Thank you for the $5. But let's get it back on track. So I guess if we want to use this example, right, of people being told that they are responsible for their failures. So when we talk about men having a problem in relationships, and a lot of young men are, we see the rising rates in loneliness, rising rates in virginity, right? Right, and not not voluntary virginity, to be clear, right? Rising rates in self-harm, all these things. Uh, what is this? the solution here, Cham, and I want to toss it to you first, and to Darko, because Darko hasn't got much time. Like,
Yeah,
what do you expect to see happen here?
the solution is men need to stop bullying other men about health issues. They don't need to tell men that it's gay if they go to a therapist, or that they're not masculine if they've got health issues and they want to tackle it. I think a lot of that reeks back to like good old days where like you're supposed to like fight it out and just deal with it, and shit like that. And we've seen through countless countries that haven't tackled mental health issues. It leads back to like alcoholism, death, suicide, all that. So I think we need to support more men into getting the help that they need. And we need to stop like bullying men into men into doing it, into saying that it's like gay and unneeded. So support men instead of you know, kind of going childish,
Okay,
acting like a
Darko,
child over it.
Darko, do you have a different answer, similar answer? What are your solutions to the problem?
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like there are like three major issues like facing men. One is that we're falling behind in education, like terribly. Like when Title IX was passed in 1970 or was amended in 1972, it was to help address a 16% graduation gap in favor of men. It caught up by 1980, and since then has completely reversed and is now the highest it's ever been at 18% in favor of women. This is also reflected the same in high school graduation rates, standardized test scores, GPA averages. Like yeah, like men have just like they have lost any advantage they've had in STEM. They were never ahead in language, and yeah, they're just like the school system is not working
Sure. So
for
let's
them.
address that one first. So did women get that done by pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and supporting each other, or did the government step in to address their issues directly?
I would say that women have an easier time flourishing in the school system that we have built. I think men, or rather, like young boys, develop a lot of like skills that are critical in like for school about a year later on average than young girls do. And so yeah, I don't know, maybe staggering them like by a year could be a solution. But no, I think like women, like girls develop, like your chemistry homework skills, like remembering you have the assignment, actually doing the assignment, remembering to bring it and turn it in, and like not do anything else. Whereas like men have a harder time controlling like impulse seeking behavior.
So they're just naturally not as stable.
Yeah. That, and I think
Okay.
probably a lack of like male teachers, because there's just like I think like 0.7% of all English teachers are male, and like I don't know, there's it's easier to connect to someone who's like the same gender as you generally, and like yeah, like there are no
Do you
men
think they don't
here.
have fathers or something, or they don't have brothers or friends or anything?
Well, I mean, yeah, they can have that, but like it's like having a role model that is a teacher can get you uniquely inspired like in a certain like subject, and like I don't know, kind of like inspire you to have a passion for maybe your career, or like um but
Yeah,
yeah,
well, couldn't
and
we fix
also
that by putting them on a sports team? I don't think there are very many female coaches that like teach lacrosse or basketball or football.
sure, but I would also like, I would like men who are good in literature
Okay,
and
let
art,
me let me
just as much as
okay, let me
sports.
cut to the chase and ask you directly, and then I want to open this up to the floor, if you will, right? So again, you mentioned Title IX, right? And you mentioned the reason we did Title IX, or one of the reasons we amended Title IX, was because the gap in education, right? The back gap in there was drastic issues that were keeping women out of education and keeping them from succeeding in education. Would you advocate for a similar thing, given that men are experiencing the same problem, the same metrics, right? It's just reversed. Would you
Or
advocate
it's
for
worse now.
well, sure, it's worse now. Would you advocate for a similar government program stepping in to fix this issue? Why or why not?
I
To
mean, yeah,
specifically, and let me be
absolutely.
clear, to specifically, right, prioritize men in education.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 1000%. I would
Cham, would
like
that you be okay
I
with
am
that?
I guess they already have that. I think personally they're just too fucking lazy. I don't think it stems from opportunity. I think it stems from the individual. I think a lot of them have been brought up to the fact that like um they don't need education, or I don't know what they're taught. I'm not sure why
How
A
many
lot,
they're
men do
a
you
lot of hold,
talk to, Cham?
hold on, wait. I want to.
a
I
lot
keep on
more
having to
than
clarify
you.
because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying most young boys are taught that they don't need education.
No, no, no. They're not that they're not that they're like other opportunities and stuff. Like education isn't like that important, and they'll jump to like STEM or something like that, but then they don't become
Isn't
successful
that
in them.
STEM is not education.
No, STEM is educational, but
Okay.
it's not as equal to like college education.
what are you
Oh,
talking?
you might not
What
know what STEM
engineering?
is. There might be a miscommunication about what STEM is. Do you know what STEM is?
Yes, it's math, science. Yes, I do.
Yeah. So it would be. So it's not a separate thing. You're not going for STEM or going to a
Sorry,
higher education
STEM
institution.
and what's the not STEM, correct? What's that one?
Like
You
trade
talking about
schools,
trade
The
school?
like
humanities?
doing
Is
like
that?
a
Yeah.
trade.
Okay.
Trade.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
maybe which I think I get it now. So the idea is that women are seeking these degrees. They're more likely, obviously, I think you were saying 18%. I've seen 10% as well. They're more likely to finish college when they started. They're more likely to finish university. So men are kind of like, well, I could be an electrician. I could do HVAC. I could be a mechanic. They're looking at all these other things as possibilities, not really focused on education. But you used a particular word. You said lazy. So it's not actually that they're making like a decision to do something different because they're weighing the pros and cons. They're just like, I don't feel like going to the 4 year, or I don't feel like going to graduate school. Is that what you're saying? Like they don't have the energy for it?
I think a lot of them, yeah, I think a lot of them don't have to each of their own. Everyone's kind of different, but um the few that I've talked to, it's just a lot of them it's just it's not for them. And if it's not for them, like go for it. But at the end of the day, I think those same men that
Hmm.
don't have don't want to increase their lifestyle and better themselves for later on, they can't bitch like when a woman comes in and says, well, I'm not interested, I'm looking for a man that's going to have a future.
How many of those men do you think are like in the general population?
What do you mean? I can't give you a statistic.
That you would say like, well, yeah, just like
Guess
just you. How do
percentage
you
wise.
feel, right? Like, what's the probability that you encounter a male that's lazy and doesn't try, and but then complains that he can't be with a lady sexually?
um I mean, you could just look at the most the red pill manosphere and all
No,
that
I don't
crap.
think you can. I think you fundamentally could not. If the
Definitely not
entire
the creators,
manosphere,
and I wouldn't
hold
even say the
on,
audience, but definitely not the creators. You can't.
if the entire thesis of the manosphere red pill section, so to speak, is that man must one exercise and become a physical specimen, two work on getting more money, and three work on his social status in order to be with a woman, how can you, Cham, logically deduce that it is the red pillars who feel that way?
I mean, aren't they the ones complaining they're not getting laid, they're not finding their trad wives and shit like
Cham,
that?
Cham, follow me logically. If this is the group of men that say you have to exercise and become sexually muscularly attractive, you must increase the money you have and you must increase your social status. Cham, logically, how can those be the same men?
That are too lazy to try.
No, I think it's a mixture of both. I think it's a lazy men. I think it's men
Okay,
that
okay. So,
claim that they're in this whole like red pill atmosphere.
okay, so
But
okay, okay,
the red pill
so
atmosphere calls for, again, that phrase extreme ownership. It calls for you having an internal sense of control in terms of your worldview and how you relate to the world, right? It is not somebody else's fault. It is not. I think there's a core misunderstanding a lot of times of what's happening in the red pill. The idea is not that women are at fault for everything and they need to fix their shit and get their shit together so that we can win. It's never been the goal. Otherwise, they would never tell you to do anything. They would never say go better yourself, because what
Well,
would be the point if it's not your
I
fault,
hold on, just
right?
to be clear,
But
Cohort.
it's
Hold
it's
on,
more
Cham,
than six figures,
just to be clear.
six packs and all that shit. Don't be
Okay,
a fucking piece of
just to be
shit.
clear,
Have
when
a
we talk
better
about the red
personality.
pill, we have to be a lot more, way more specific, because there are absolutely portions of the red pill who do blame
Talking about
women for
the,
this.
I'm talking about the. So most of the, I feel like most of the creators that she might bring up for red pill creators, like the manosphere, like the kind of people that talk about the stuff that we're talking about here, the narrative, typically the narrative, and I feel like I can say this because I've listened to so much of it, good stuff, bad stuff, mediocre stuff. It's very rare that you hear somebody say, you're good, you're perfect the way you are, young man. There really is not.
Oh,
They're the ones
rare.
that are screwed up. You're fine. I've actually never
I have to
heard a
disagree.
major
Yeah, now I
red
agree
pill
because they've
content
never
creator.
said that.
They've
That's the
never
thing.
said that. It's always a message of you got to pick yourself up. You got to. It's actually exactly as Zers described it. Right. Get your body right. Get your mind right. Get your pockets right. Social skills, social status, all these things. You have to fix them. Right. So they're kind of actually more in agreement with Cham in that regard, because their thing is it's your problem and you have to fix it. Now, what they often leave out, which is something that Zersh brought up earlier, which is the female angle, the woman angle. Like, why can't women provide patience and grace throughout this process as the man is bettering themselves? The reason why I feel like you don't hear that a lot in the manosphere spaces, men saying that, is because they know that that is a losing battle. Requesting women to be supportive in this way is a losing battle. It will sound
Well,
vulnerable, it will sound feminine, and there will be no respect given for the vulnerability that often women are requesting in the first place. So
ten
that's why they're
dollars,
not,
And as
ten
such, oh, I'm
dollars
sorry.
from Psychonaut to say the Boy Crisis by PhD Warren Farrell shows that it was a government changing curriculum to better help women starting from young. Thank you for the $10. Go ahead, Cersei. Then I want to make sure that Darko and Ruby have some space. Go ahead.
That's right. And the one thing I need to add on is, as much as that's true, that is a reflection of either the perception of women or the behavior of women. The fact that these guys think that it's a losing battle to even suggest to young ladies that they should care about the other half of their species, I'll be honest with you, Cham, you're kinda that woman they think they're going to encounter. Because somehow you've mixed in the entire group of males that are literally saying that you should not and cannot be lazy to get women with the same group of men that aren't going to do anything and try. You're not even bridging the gap between the group that you're criticizing here.
I will
And
say,
then you
to be
say, well,
fair to Cham,
it's a
that
mix, but it's like,
I'm
how is
saying
there a
I'm
mix there?
saying I'm saying fix yourself. You shouldn't, if especially if you're at the bottom of your lowest, you should fix yourself and your personality. I'm sorry, but it's not about
but
the
that
gyms
does
and six
exist a lot
figures.
in
Well,
Red Pill, and like if you look at people like Jordan Peterson is treated as the Antichrist, he actually really has brought in that message of like fix yourself, start with the room,
in
clean
your
up.
room.
So it
Yeah.
does kind of seem like when men come forward to bring out these encouraging steps that they get demonized, you know?
No, well,
So I
no,
do want to
he's
be fair
demonized
to
by the
that. But
leftists.
I will say, of course, Chim's gonna have that perspective when that's the loudest of the bunch that rises to the top of social media, is the most profane, the most outrageous of the red pill community. So it's become kind of like a stereotype about it. But for me, as
I
spending a
must
lot of
challenge
spaces
this.
like in those communities, I do see a lot of mutual support. I do see a lot of self-help and encouraging messaging, but that doesn't necessarily make its way to the feminist side of things. Do you really do have to be more in those spaces or have like a more nuanced perception to get to that perspective?
No, so the issue that I'm having is when we started this chain of the conversation, Cham is saying that there's a subsect of lazy men who simultaneously don't want to try in life and are depressed and not caring, but also are upset that they can't be with a woman. And when I asked for an example of that, she gave me red pillars. Now, what I need Cham to do here logically is to say that you are correct, Zers. Red pillars are not
Have
those
you heard
men.
of the
Let's
term
shift the
hobosexual?
conversation. I have heard of the term, yes, but you need to
Okay,
acknowledge that red
that's it.
pillars are not
hold
the
on.
lazy
For my
men,
audience's
Cham.
sake, what's a hobosexual? Cham, what's a
Means you're
hobosexual?
exclusively attracted to hobos.
It's like it's like there's like, I don't know if it's a group of men or whatever. I don't know. There's this new trend of like men essentially like leeching off of women and stuff like that. Living off of them
That's not new.
financially.
Talk to my exes.
Yeah, you had mentioned it, I think, about that. And it's a shame that women like
Every chance
leech
I get,
onto
I'm
that.
bitter.
But but what's his name said, oh, we should give him a chance. So he should fix his mental health. You should support the loser who's not really fixing much of his life. So
Well,
I
hold on.
mean,
Nobody
If a
I
said
think
that.
we
woman
should
No, no,
support
selected
the
to
no,
hold
no.
on,
loser.
hold
Wait,
on.
no, wait,
The
wait, wait. That's
loser
not what
needs
was
the most
said.
support, though, honestly. So I think we should be sympathetic to losers
They
people
do, but that's
for.
but
actually
for how
not. That's
long?
actually not what was said.
But for how
So,
Well, to the
long?
point where
so,
it doesn't become enabling, but that's, there is a very fine line between like helping
so,
versus
so,
enabling
so,
that,
so, so hold on. This whole caricature that keeps on being presented. It's and look, you have to argue with the straw man. You have to, because you can't play in the same sandbox that we're in, right? Because if you come over here, you won't be able to retain any of these nonsensical points. So you have to argue from the perspective of you're dealing with this man who is shiftless, he's lazy, he has no drive, no ambition, he doesn't want to fix
Syphilis?
himself, and you're being told to go to this man and fix him and give him money and give him support and get his life right. And that's not what anyone is saying to you. It's not what's being outlined,
No
right?
one would even
So
encourage a
so so
homosexual.
no, nobody would. Certainly we wouldn't, and I don't like. It's not even
I
like
just want to
to
remind you, you can donate
imply.
to the stream at any time, gang. Anyway,
Yeah,
carry
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Don't
It's a little
don't
I
That
think
kill
you're
what
right.
us.
Even
Cham
that
was like more
wouldn't be
referring
doing
to
that.
Kill.
like. I
Well,
think
no,
Cham
no.
was referring. She said red pill, but she should have said specifically a subset of like
I'm
extremist
I'm not
incel
even just talking about
ideology,
that though. There's
because
a
red pill is
general
so broad.
argument. There's
I
a
just wanted
general
to
So
point that
Yeah,
out.
it
there's a
is
general
very
argument being
broad.
offered from her that this man I've just described and that she's described several times. This is the man that we're primarily concerned with and need to talk about. We are concerned with that man, but that man is not the only one that's struggling. And that man that doesn't want to do anything and is refusing to try and he's barely making an effort, no one is saying women need to go find him and just be ultra supportive to the bitter end. What we're saying
thank you.
is young men are facing they're facing an ever changing dating market, dating landscape, right? It's becoming more and more difficult to speak to women, to get to know them, to get them to give you a chance. It's becoming harder to navigate the workplace without getting in trouble. It's becoming harder to navigate the places where they have fun without getting in trouble. Even gaming has been affected
Can we
by
can we
these changes as
can
well.
we interrogate that a little bit, because I think this ties into something that was said earlier, right? And the catcalling that was mentioned, which wasn't posited as catcalling, but simply compliments. So one of the things that I've seen more and more and more is there is no real place that it's okay for a man to approach a woman anymore. There's none.
No, it's
You know,
Can't do it at the
broadly in
gym.
like bars,
You
but
can't do it
if
at the
yeah, in
store.
bars, I would say.
No, a lot.
Or like out in like a third space.
If a
But I do
woman's
agree that it's men are not receiving that message because there is so much messaging around like protecting women and we're so fragile and any little touch from a man is going to traumatize you. So I understand there are issues, but I wouldn't say that there isn't these spaces aren't out there because I go out, on a regular basis and anytime sitting by myself, a man generally does approach me and I'll have a nice conversation and tell them I'm not interested if that's the case, or enjoy a drink, get to know them, and then leave. But
about
I
approaching them
those spaces
respectfully.
exist. Yeah.
what the okay, Cham, give me an example. So obviously, right, I can't come up and go like, "Damn, you got that booty," right? Obviously, that'd be inappropriate, right? But can you give me an
Unless you're a
example?
Chad.
Unless you're a Chad, and then you
Well,
can get
that's
away
the
with
whole
anything.
And then you
problem,
can be as
though.
creepy as you
Sure,
want.
but to
But you
Cham's
But you
break the
example,
can't.
rules.
That's
Well, we'll get
evolution.
back
hold
to it.
on, hold on, hold on.
No,
Take it up
I
with
don't.
Darwin.
We'll get there. We'll
I
get there. We'll
I
get
don't
there.
know
I
about
promise.
that.
Promise.
I
Promise.
think ugly people also are.
I'm going to ignore that for now. Cham, what is a respectful way that a man can compliment a part of your body, right? Or is there any?
Well, why does it have to be your
Yeah, don't
body?
yeah.
Like
Have
that's
So
mercy.
none?
the first.
Well,
I can't go up and
That's
like,
the
hey,
first.
nice eyes or something?
Oh, that's
Eyes
yeah.
is no, that's
Or
fine.
hey,
But like
you're
if you're
very
talking about
cute. I think you're very
tit or ass,
sexy.
but
Would you
That
like
but
to
was
get a
Cam, can you
drink?
lock
I
in and
don't
answer
think
the question?
I think cute is the best thing you can say. Best safest
All right,
thing. I
thank you.
think you're cute. I like
Okay, cute works. Dump
I
trucks
Wick,
straight out, but cute's cool.
Wick,
huh?
you should use the 5 second
Yeah. I
rule.
think sexy is weird. Like it's kind of like
What's the
Yeah, that's a
5-second
little.
rule?
If you're going to compliment a woman, don't compliment anything that wouldn't take like 5 seconds to change, basically. Because like it's weird, like or whatever. I know
That
this
could be a good
from
standard
when.
for
But
like
can
autistic
we talk
people,
about? But hold on. Isn't it kind of goofy that we even have to set up rules on how to have a conversation with a woman?
No,
Why are there
because
even
uh oh.
rules
men
and
and women
standards to
fundamentally
talk to
have
a
very
young
different.
lady?
Yeah, I can tell you why there's
You
double
Because men and
you
standards
women
don't
is
have
because
communicate
from
you don't
differently.
listen.
Yeah,
I've
we
had
do.
women come up. Hold
Hold
on,
on,
but hold on. Just listen.
Xerxes, you
I've
can
had women.
imagine that there are wrong ways to do it, though,
But
right?
all right, I'm sure, but
Yes,
I
there are
want you to
wrong ways
understand
to
something
approach a woman,
really
but I
If your
think we
interesting.
can
penis
all
is out,
agree
you're
on
doing
that.
it wrong.
So there you go, right? So
You
here's
get
the
Bless your
thing,
arrested
because
Chad.
if it's wrong.
I've had women come up, right, and just grab my abs, just feel my abs to see if they're present, right? I've had women stand
That's
too close to
inappropriate.
me, right? Like but that's what I'm saying. There's
Yeah,
no
women do
Oh yeah, women
etiquette.
routinely
will.
inappropriate
Hold
Hold
on.
on,
shit. Yeah,
women will
This is
grab
what's
your. Women are
interesting to me.
handsy, gang. But go
They
on.
are.
are, right? They'll invade your personal space and they won't even think twice about it, right? Now, as a 6 foot tall man, I'm just supposed to eat that. I'm just supposed to, like, if I
No,
say
no
that
one
there's something
fucking
goofy
said
about
that.
that,
You're
right?
making that
No,
shit up in your
no, no, no,
head.
no, no. But I'm
Who
not
said you're
making
supposed
up
to
in
eat
my
that?
head, right?
Yeah, no, I
Society,
think
right? The way that
no,
I get
no.
treated, right, when I bring up some issues like this, the way that the society treats me, women included in society, is like, well, why wouldn't you like that? You're a man. They don't even take it seriously that there are rule breakers that women do in
I
these
wanna
social
give. Hold on,
situations.
Xerxes.
I think that's
So, but I want
men
to
now
actually make my point because I'm.
not
No,
women.
Xerxes. This is important to pin because I want to make sure
Mhm,
that Darko and Cham get a chance to respond to that, and then you'll get to
mhm.
continue because you made an assertion.
Okay.
The assertion that you've made that women can just come up to you and feel on your body, which I agree with. To be clear, that there is a double standard here, but your assertion was that society says you should have to eat that and just take it. Cham and Darko disagree, and I want to explore that disagreement. That's what we're going to
Mhm.
do right now. Darko, because he's had less speaking time, and then Cham, and then we'll get to
Okay.
the rest of your points. I promise. And I
Okay.
see all your super chats. We'll get to them at 7:15. So keep giving me money, and then at 7:15 I'll read all the super chats. But go ahead, Cersei.
Well,
Um,
the greater point. Oh, I'm sorry. I
Oh
think
fuck!
Darko and then
I
you.
said Cersei.
Yeah.
That's my fault.
I'm
My
sorry. Yeah.
God, you guys are got Men's Mental Health Awareness Month has failed specifically because now I'm insane. Darko, Cham, then Cersei. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I guess I don't know. Like I don't know. To vaguely appeal to society, I don't quite like understand that. I know that like yeah. I mean, I would agree that society has like turned its back on men for the most part. And so when you bring up an issue of like men, like I'm getting harassed, and like they're just telling you like you should enjoy it because like no one cares about men's problems. But also I feel like you don't like you don't appreciate the amount of like fatigue that women probably feel. Like they're generally like relentlessly showered in like sexual attention from age like 12 until death. And like like even if you have like 100 dudes like approach you that are all like fine, like like you can just get tired of like going through that same process over and over again, and like that's also contributing like to that problem. But like yeah, I don't know, I feel like it's weird to not mention that like, oh, like
Can I extend an olive branch real quick, or is it not my turn? I can wait. But
No, extend the olive branch, then we'll go to Cham.
I just wanted to say I actually I understand that, right? I also have a sister, so maybe I have a particular perspective, right, than some other men might have. I get that 100%, and that's why. So me personally, I don't do any form of catcalling or like random like just like a random positive affirmation that where I just like yell it out or just like, oh damn, like no type of stuff like that, because I have to always imagine that yes, that is going to be something that they experience on a recurring basis. And honestly, in my opinion, if I was giving advice to a young man, my son, whatever, I would not tell him that was the most advantageous way to introduce yourself to a woman. I would never say that. That the best way to start is to let her know that she's thick or something, because it's not definitely not the best foot to get off on, right? So I 100% get that, and yeah, I just wanted to say that. So you don't think that we're at odds on everything? I get that 100%.
Okay,
all
Cham.
right.
No,
But
see, the greater point that I was making, right, is that well educated and well understood men are already on that wavelength, right? The issue is that, like, even first of all, just being on that wavelength, that there's a respectful way to approach women, doesn't even guarantee that the woman's going to respect you. That's kind of just number one. But number two, what I'm saying is there's a disrespect for young men sometimes in this sexual area that we don't discuss or talk about. We're talking about men's mental health. We're not talking about the fact that we're putting a lot of pressure on young men to just interact with women from go, to just speak to them, right? There's a pressure and a frustration that a lot of women are not giving grace to and giving a good, calm explanation, like trying to bridge the gap. Because if I need to speak to a young lady, I'm feeling this anxiety and this pressure, right? Just like if I'm just a random man, I'm feeling this. I don't have the options to express that I do find you attractive now, because now I have to put it in this cookie cutter way. Now I have to do the 5-second rule. Now I have to find the perfect opportunity to speak to you. The issue here is when we go back to other young ladies now, they say, well, how come men aren't approaching us? How come men aren't talking to us? It's because we're not bridging the gap between that. Yeah, there's a respectful way to do this. Of course, we teach well-meaning young men that obvious way to do that. But what we don't do is have young ladies extend the grace to allow for young men to respectfully come to them, because we focus on the catcallers. We know the catcallers are bad. We know the catcallers are wrong. We know you shouldn't say you're thick and you have a fat ass. But where is the grace for where, hey, I saw you. I thought you were beautiful. May I speak to you? Where is that grace that I'm trying to ask for from young ladies?
Yeah,
Have
well,
you like been
Just
to a
again,
to
bar
add a
lately? I
little.
mean,
What?
you can do that. It's simply about your approach and how you approach women. If you're at a
I'm
bar
still
and
waiting
you
for a
say
good
something
example.
at the
A good
oh,
example
I
of what?
mean,
Good
Oh,
example
about
on
how?
how
Yeah,
to
sorry.
approach a woman. I can give a good example
Hmm.
because this happened to me semi recently. I was sitting at a bar waiting for a friend. I'm sitting by myself, and often if you do see a woman, well, if she's sitting by herself at a bar, usually, and it's unfortunate, it's all based around like alcohol. But anyway, this is an example. A guy came up and respectfully was like, "Hey, are you waiting for someone? I just thought you were really beautiful and wanted to come over and introduce myself. This is my name." And he's an average looking guy. And we sat and chatted for a while. I said, "Oh, I am waiting for someone, but I'm happy to sit down and chat with you for a while." And we left friends. I see him around and we're on friendly terms now. We didn't end up dating, but I do think most women try to handle those situations with grace. And I think that the way he approached me didn't make me feel demeaned whatsoever. It felt like he was approaching
Sure.
me as a human being that he found attractive and was curious
I
if
want to
maybe
I
I
want to
found
hear
him
from
attractive.
Cham though. That's who I'm
Okay.
asking, right? Like
yeah, okay.
Cham's
So
had the strong stance here. I think everyone could agree with that. Fair. But Cham, give us an example for you.
yeah, so like a lot of times, so I'm like obviously like pretty nerdy, so a lot of times I go to like video game conventions and stuff like that, and I do like get approached a lot. Um I am married, so suckers. So but a lot of times the approach is depending on your environment. Oh, hey, I like video games, like what are you into and stuff. So finding a common interest is like a really big thing.
That's
So
not a way to
can I?
approach women? Like, hey, do you like that? That's what I
Absolutely.
want to do when I want to
Can I?
approach
Absolutely.
But
someone
I
A
who
mean,
common
plays
yeah,
video
interest.
games
Hold
with
on.
me.
yes,
Exactly.
it
Hold on.
is. You want something
Hold
common
on.
with the person you're chatting with. If it's gonna be fucking awkward and it's like,
Hmm.
oh,
I ain't there
But
to play
listen, this
chess
is
with them.
basic. Can I cut in, please? Wait, can I cut
Go
in, please,
ahead.
please? This is basic level one, and this is kind of what I'm saying. The reason why I went through that, and even the whole harassment with between males and females with women touching you, is to explain and show you men already have this base information. This is level one. I'm be honest with you, this is high school, man. Like you can't get to adulthood without seeing this type of advice at least once in your life, just from go. What I am trying to get Cham to understand and contend with, right, is that understanding and that acceptance that well-meaning men have already obtained this education. Because Cham's, and this is just one example. The whole conversation, Cham is not accepting that men have been given the information that they need to do X, Y, and Z. She keeps on arguing with some phantom man that doesn't grasp this concept, that doesn't get this. The fact that Cham says, "Let me tell you, you need to know, you need to have a similar."
So can
Who
I
the
put
fuck
something?
are you trying to
like,
give this
are you
advice
This is
to?
what I wanted to
are
jump
you
in with
wanting
before.
advice from another man? You're asking advice on women how to approach women. Like, what do you want?
He was
Well,
giving you
Cham,
What
an example.
well, hold
what
We're
on.
answer
asking
do you
you to
want?
provide the example. Is
I
what
gave you an example. I
Cham.
said find something
I'll
that
tell you
you
what I
have
want.
common grounds with, you
Cham,
could chat with.
Cham.
Is
Here's
that
what I want.
perfectly
George,
Here's what I
will you
fine?
let
want.
me hop in real quick? Let me hop
Go
in real
ahead.
quick.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
because I just want to say, so cool. We all agree that the cat callers, the people, the men that approach in a way that's very abrasive, in a way that is very, assuming, right? Not good. So these men that are going out and they're trying to be respectful and to make sure that it's clear that they view these women as human beings and not just sexual objects. They're introducing themselves first and foremost with the "Hey, how are you doing? Hey, I think I've seen you here before. Hi, my name is this, whatever," right? They're coming respectfully, right? And yet still, a woman could still be fatigued because there have been other men that might have approached her that day, or she just may not be in the mood, right? There's this interesting thing that men have to navigate where
It's okay.
even with relatively pure intentions. When I say pure, I mean they're not thinking in their mind, "Yeah, I just got to get this woman to let me fuck," right? Like they're not thinking
Mhm.
that. They're like, wow, she's really cute. I think I've seen her before and I've been wanting to talk to her. Okay, I'm gonna make my move, right? That's what he's thinking. It's not some like seedy, like hands rubbing in the dark thing. He thinks you're cute, he wants to talk to you, right? But at the same time, this woman may just be trying to grab a book from Barnes and Nobles really quick. She may just be looking to get a coffee. Her mind may be on work, it may be on something different, and they have to find a way to interrupt, and it's not ideal, but they have to interrupt her life, insert themselves in it. She doesn't know them, right? And they're trying to keep it cordial and hopefully make something happen, right? And it's a very tricky situation. Look, this is not something that just got invented, right? We didn't just invent cold approaching. This is something that men have had to do for a while. So obviously the hot approach is a lot easier. If I work with you, or if we go to the same gym, or if you trip and fall and I help you pick something up and we strike a conversation, right? That's always going to be better. Or if even the anime convention, the gaming convention, we're both looking at some display for Sony or something, we get to talking about that. Always going to be easier. I think that where the grace is required is to realize that when a man approaches a woman, mostly in a cold situation where he doesn't have an in, because if a man has an in, he'll use it. He'll use the anime or whatever, right? But if he doesn't have that, he's hoping this woman realizes he's just trying to talk, and he's not always going to be a creep, and he's not always trying to do something untoward. And it's in those situations where they get, maybe not that grace, they get cut down or they get, an attitude, right?
But
And I think
you
yeah.
you also have to remember a lot of times women also go through these times where men constantly approach them, and then when you reject them they say something like, oh well, you're just a fat cunt bitch or
Hold on,
something
Let me
Cham.
give
so
you let
Hold
me
on,
give
hold on,
that to her
Zerky,
though.
stop.
Mhm.
Cham,
Mhm.
have you ever has a man ever turned you down?
has a man yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
hell
will
yeah.
say that I have never been called such slurs as I am called when I turn a woman down. The F slur is the favorite one, right? You say no to a woman, you're a eunuch, you're an F slur, you're all these things. And this is from jump. So I don't know if this is a
That is very true.
gendered issue, okay? I'm not certain that women take rejection any better or worse than men. Now, I will say though, in the way we have society set up, women don't approach men because they don't have to. If men didn't have to, they wouldn't either, to be clear. But yeah, it's one of
Do you
those
think
things
women just
where,
don't approach men though? Like I think
Well, of
times
course
have
they do.
changed and women have women have had the
but
balls
not at
more
near the
balls
same
to.
level.
Yeah,
No, of
not
course
at
not,
all.
because a lot of women still have the idea of, like, chivalry and a man should approach, like, a woman. And we've always been taught that, like, since a
So
young
champ, but
age.
champ,
That's not the only reason.
let's
It's
talk
really
about that
hard to
though.
approach, and you guys have no interest in navigating that minefield. It's literally a minefield. You can't
Of
you
Let's
can't
let's
approaching a
explode.
let's
man?
give that, right? Yeah,
Yes, no,
of
no,
just approaching in general. Yeah.
because whenever you approach somebody, you're putting your emotions, you're putting your character on display for attack. It is a very vulnerable position, and when somebody tells you no, and especially if this is something that you've had to think over for some period of time, like you've seen them before, so maybe there's been days or weeks, sometimes even months. Because the truth is, again, for men, right? It isn't that sect of men that just yells out when they see a fat booty, they just call it out immediately. Super small. Most men not moving like that. Don't have the confidence. Don't have they wouldn't even. It's embarrassing for them. They wouldn't even do that, right? So most men, they'll see a woman that they're attracted to, and they're just trying to find the opportunity. Like, what am I going to approach? How am I going to approach? Whatever, right? Once they find it and they put themselves on display and they put themselves in that vulnerable position, and they get the rejection, it hurts. And sometimes we accrue a lot of hurt. But
That's
we wade through it. I'm not complaining. We wade through it and we work through it because we know that the whole point is for something beautiful, which is to hopefully get a strong, worthwhile relationship. And if you're monogamous, it's like a lifelong thing, whatever, right? Point being, the idea that the only reason women don't approach is just because of chivalry, but otherwise they do it. No, not true. Okay, it hurts. Rejection hurts, and
yeah,
and
fuck
if
yeah.
you don't have to open yourself to it, which they don't. They don't. They let the offers roll in. They swipe,
It's
swipe,
just
swipe.
sexual selection, though. Take it up with evolution because that's the nature of the female sex
He's
is
he's
that we
not
are the
he's not
I'm not
there's
mad
selectors.
not a
about it. I'm not.
discrepancy.
I
Yeah,
I
do
there's
know,
not a
I
but
do
I'm just
think that
discrepancy,
saying
right?
broader to Cham too,
I
that
think
I
in
don't think that
general
it comes down
men
to chivalry or anything people are being taught. But I do think
I
you have to it needs to be a really important part of this
Well,
conversation, the
I
whole
want to make sure
driver
Cham
of all
finishes her point.
sexual human
Hold on,
men
hold
and
on.
behavior.
I
women
want to make
should
sure Cham
accept
finishes her point.
rejection.
Cham, go ahead.
I
Yeah,
think
and
men
women
and
handle it
women.
terribly, and
Yeah.
men often
Ruby,
do too. But
come
women
on,
just
friendly
women
fire here. You gotta let Cham finish her
women
point.
don't. It's true. I mean, well,
Is
and
it
just talking
truly
to men,
though?
it's very common because women are, I think part of it is like women just don't believe that we don't understand the sexual power that we do have and that can harm.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we've internalized feminist messaging in a negative way to think that we are so powerless and like fragile that we can't harm,
I
we
just want
can't
it
hurt
noted
men. Like,
that
how
no one has
could we,
interrupted Cham more than her friend Ruby. Cham, go
Right?
ahead.
That is
Hey,
false.
I'm okay with
And
it. I'm okay. You do you,
And
girl.
I'm not
I've
here batting for any. I'm
I've
batting for
I've
fucking
fixed you.
reality, okay? And I want to extend olive branches to everyone and to try to have better conversations, even though I get revved up really easily. That's just my nature,
Yeah,
passionate.
I do want to make
But
a point though.
it's
I
sexual
think
selection,
I
and
think
it's
both
it's
genders
I,
need
hard.
to
It's
accept
hard to be a
rejection.
person. I think
no,
we
but
both
this
do, but
is.
I do think we need to
Mhm.
let men have that space to speak and talk about how that
They
feels without women
feel.
telling them that they have no that they're wrong to even bring up that experience. Like Cohort was saying, like how we have that multitude of experience, and I thought that was a really great analogy. We have all these minor cuts and wounds of our lifetime of sexual harassment and treatment by men, and men have all these minor cuts and wounds throughout a
Okay.
lifetime of rejection over and over and over.
5
So I thought
minutes
that
till
was
I
a
see
good
the
point.
super chats. 5 minutes till we get to super chats. I'll read them all, I promise, in 5 minutes. But Xerxes, go ahead.
I think Ruby made a great point there. There's a lot of minor cuts that pile up that become a death by 1,000, from the ladies who feel the harassment and the males who feel the pressure and the rejection constantly. And I think there's a lot of clashing going on there, which is why I'll jump to this again. There does need to be grace on both sides. Now the reason why I keep challenging Cham on this point is because we keep on using the example of the male who did things wrong as the brush to paint all of us and say all of us need to change, all of us need to do X, Y, Z.
No,
Now,
you put that
now
on
when it
yourself.
comes to no, that's
No,
not true.
everyone said
That's how we
all.
started this conversation. Well,
I put
most
in certain
there's a
people like
there's a subsect
homophobes
of them,
or not
right?
homophobes, but
So, but
homo
here's the thing:
whatevers,
when it
red
comes
pill,
to
all these group of
hmm
men that
hmm
are
but
essentially the
but you
problem that can't get
mhm.
laid.
Okay. So the issue here, when we just look at
Hide
the
your
the
cunt.
cold approaching phenomenon, right? We just stop that from go. Ruby, I'm sorry, not Ruby, but Cham acknowledges that that's just the way things are. Women want males to approach them and to talk to them. They've set up that this is the social standing, the social understanding that males have to come to them. And yet, despite the fact that they set it up and they won't change, they won't do anything different, they then use the negative experiences that they've had of being catcalled or being harassed to then say, no, men shouldn't do this. So you say on the one hand, men should do it, but then, well, they shouldn't do it because other men did something bad. And you're creating this
No,
friction and this
I'm telling
confusion
you the
where you're
reason
not
why
giving
a
an
lot of
answer.
no, I'm giving you the reason why some women react certain ways and why they're more defensive. Like
Okay.
because of their
So,
personal experience
so are they
with
supposed to
men.
maintain that forever? Or are they supposed to grow and evolve?
I think plenty of women grow balls and they get over it.
I
But
said
I think
evolve,
as
not
if
grow balls, but like
oh,
evolve, as
okay.
in
So I
now they
outlined,
understand the
Oh,
other side of the spectrum.
but there may be a way that we can way that we can lock in some agreement here, because I think both of us at different points have outlined scenarios where men are approaching properly and still receiving so the rejection is fine, but still receiving behavior that is untoward and disrespectful and demeaning, right, and
Yeah.
emasculating. And
think
so,
that
so,
Yeah.
is
so I
an
think
instant fucking red flag for you saying, "Okay, I am so glad
no,
I
no,
dodged a bullet."
I
That
got
should
you,
be helpful for you. If a
I
bitch is
got you.
being a cunt to you after she rejected you, you should
Mhm.
that be a huge sign saying, "Okay, yeah, this bitch is being a cunt. I shouldn't be." That is you
That's
dodged a
sour
fucking
grapes.
bullet.
That's sour
No,
grapes.
no, no, no,
Okay,
no.
no
Hold on,
one's
hold on,
gonna
hold on,
think
hold on.
like
Dodging
So,
that
so,
in
bullet.
the
so, so,
moment.
I,
Yeah.
so I got you. So I got you right.
You
So that's
should
fine.
think like that in the moment.
But the point is so we spend a lot of time talking about the bottom of the barrel man that is not making a lot of an effort to change the situation. And when he does approach women, he does it in the worst way and this and the third. I just want to make sure that we now moved on from now. We've identified that young men, regardless of whether or not they are that caricature or not, right? So the men that are not that, they're still going to have these things to push up against. So they still have to deal with navigating higher education in a school system, in a educational system that is not geared towards either their learning styles, their preferences, or their nature, right? They still have to navigate social situations where they have to know exactly when the right time is to approach, how to approach. They have to eat rejection with perfect grace and just take it right on the chin, right? They have to be careful not to be too aggressive, both in the moment and after the rejection. Otherwise, they might be seen as bitter, sour grapes, incel, that type of energy. There's all these things that they have to be concerned with and they have to navigate. Again, very well. I'm not gonna say perfect, but like very well to avoid various labelings and such, right? And so because I feel like so Ruby, from hearing her talk, I feel like there's a level to where it's like, okay, we can understand each other. But from you, Cham, at every turn, it's if a young man is not getting the result that he wants, or a man, I shouldn't say young. If a man is not getting the result that he wants, it's because he is doing it wrong. Because woman will give you what you want as long as as long as you do it right. And if you're not getting what you
As
want,
long
just
as you
figure
do
it the
it
fuck out.
respectfully.
Okay.
It's all about
Okay.
respecting the person that you're attempting to approach or be with. If you're being like some fucking creep weirdo, and then you're like shocked
There it
that
is.
like women are rejecting.
You did
Are
the
you
caricature again.
rejecting? You
You
tell
did it
This
me.
is
again.
what I thank
You
you.
did it
This is what
again.
I'm
So we went back
Cham,
to
this is
this
what you
idea.
keep doing.
What I'm gonna
You know,
keep
it's
doing is reading my super chats
Xerxes,
because
what do you want from women? Like, what's your issue that you keep approaching women and
The
they
the
keep
the
I'm
rejecting
issue
sure he'll
the
you
tell
issue
you.
that
But
I
first,
have.
uniformly?
but first, but first, but first, but first, but first. 7:15. I said I read my super chats, and by God, I'm going to read my super chats and the bits that Zephyr gave me. Thank you for those 500 bits. Really appreciate you, Zephyr Hash, for $2 says, "Sorry, men, stop asking men for money. I'll ask men for money. I'll ask women for money. I'm an equal opportunity money
The
asker.
slut,
Okay, I'm a
a
slut
money
for
slut.
money. Slutty wick." $5 from Matt and Zero says, "Ironically, Cham is arguing for a hostile society devoid of community or sympathy. Ruby is way more good faith." Stevie for
Oh,
$5.
she is. Yeah.
A good place
Probably.
to start is to ask why you want to be in a relationship, then find out what you look for in a partner, commonalities, interests, etc. Thank you for the $5. $10 from Zephyr Hash. I find the best way to approach women is to compliment the tatas. Thank you for the $10. $5 from Turtle Emergency. Men, complimenting matters of taste, expression, and ideas is bulletproof, not traits. Not sure what this shit has to do with men's mental health. Thank you for the $5. Well, we're all going a little more insane watching it,
Well,
right?
being constantly rejected definitely will affect your mental health. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
$2.
use your brain.
Two
Go ahead.
dollars from B-Man Scout.
Approach the right women instead of what are
Why
you
is
doing?
why is sex/dating so focused here? And $2 more from B-Man Scout. Can men just better themselves without women or sex? $5 from Zephyr Hash to say, did Cham just say that you dodged a B word, C word bullet, but then she criticized men for calling women B word, C word after rejection? Hashtag mixed. Okay, and
well,
with
it's like the
that,
N word. She's allowed to
That is
use.
true. I was gonna point that out, but
Oh, I love the word cunt and bitch. If a woman is being a bitch and a cunt, like I'm not saying like women can't be. I mean, like you could just
do you
like
think it's
look up.
okay for men to call women
it's
cunts?
more.
I think I see it as yeah, I like that word. So I don't know. I'm a little biased.
But here's the problem though, champ. You identified the motivation behind those men responding that way. The motivation behind that is saying, "Well, I didn't need you anyway." It's just an outward expression in the worst way to do that. So essentially, you're saying men should feel that way, but then you think that they shouldn't say it. They shouldn't
No,
verbalize it.
they're
Would that even be fair? Would
100%.
that
Yeah,
be fair?
do not verbalize it. If you in your
Okay.
back of your head, you're like, "Oh, she rejected me." And the thing is, the wild thing is, you don't know why she could literally have a boyfriend or husband. She's like, "Yeah, I'm not interested." And then and these guys are gonna call her like
Mhm.
these kind of names. Like
Mhm.
it's not like at the end of the day to jump to that wild of a
Mhm.
statement for someone that rejected you. I think that's
Now let
crazy.
me
And the
let
same
me
thing with
grant
a
that to you
woman. If the
fully.
woman does the same to a man, if she's
Mhm.
like calls, if a wick, whatever he's experienced, though, like I said, those women are bitches and cunts, and that's okay to say that.
Okay. So I'm going to grant that to you fully. The issue, Cham, that we keep on slamming our head against is you're arguing with the worst element that no one is defending. We all agree that that is not the way a male should conduct himself. What I'm trying to get you to move to is when the male does conduct himself in the manner which he's supposed to, and he's not receiving help or grace in this society, what are we supposed to do about that together as a whole? That's what I
Wait,
want to
Let
address.
are
me
you
That's
wanting
just a
women
thing
to
that's
say yes?
inherent to cold approaching. Like
let
if you're because
me
it's not
No,
like
no,
I
no,
feel
no.
like
But
cold
we can
approaching
move
is
on from that though.
yeah, let me
no,
ask
but like
let me
yeah, if
ask
you're
a let me ask a question, Xerxes,
Mhm.
to Xerxes and Cohort, right? Because this has been brought up several times. I disagree with the concept of it, right? They're saying, why are we so focused on dating, etc.? Well, because dating's an integral part of the relationship between men and women, right? And men's mental health is tied to their value as a person, and their value as a person is tied to whether or not that they can get a relationship. That's just how society is. But
And that's how we set up young men's
yeah,
self-esteem as well. We can even discuss that. I'm sorry, but go on.
yeah, but I am
Mhm.
curious, other than women, right?
Mhm.
Taking women off the table for a moment, where are men struggling in society today that does not have to do with women? Or is it
Purpose,
all
purpose.
revolving around women? What do
No,
you think?
purpose is the most important thing. Purpose. Now,
Mhm.
it's everyone's pipeline for in terms of self actualization and purpose has been screwed up royally because of modernity. But it's and for better or for worse, right? So we all have a lot more autonomy. We're all more individuals. A huge room to chase your dreams, especially if you live in the first world. If you're fortunate enough to live in the USA, very wealthy country, blah blah blah. You can do whatever you want, right? But that's like one of those I think they call it like a negative freedom. I think it's like it's one of those situations where it's like you can do this thing, but it's a huge responsibility to figure out what you want to do and to give yourself purpose. It's no longer the case that it's like, okay, well, I'm a woman, so I'm gonna, find a good man who will treat me right and start a family and I'm a man, so I'm gonna find a woman and I'm gonna, become the traditional husband and we'll get a nice white picket fence and a home. And no, it's not that simple, right? We're all in our own corner trying to figure things out. Sometimes just trying to pay rent, living paycheck to paycheck, struggling, eating ramen. We can't even, the idea of buying a home sometimes, I mean, for so many people, is like, how would I even do that, right? So the pipeline isn't clear. And I think for men, this is especially true because they're supposed to be leaders and they want to feel like leaders. They want to be leaders. They want to be the ones who walk into a situation and they say, hey, I know where I'm going. I'd like you to come with me, right? But sometimes they honestly don't know exactly where they're going for all the aforementioned reasons, right? There's not like this clear pipeline that they can follow, right, to get to where they want to go. So it's hard for them to bring somebody along. And women are obviously a huge part of that because women have always been, and vice versa, they've always been a huge part of our purpose, right? Building a family, protecting them, providing for them, making them proud, them, of course, giving back to us, love, and et cetera. So I would say, like, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be like just purpose and direction.
$20 from Man Baby Maybe Stream says Chan is right. Men are whatever she says. They give you the $20. Cersei, go ahead.
I think the one thing that I would discuss, one, I fully agree, but two, there's a lack of models of excellence. I say role models, another way to say that. There are very many young men that fall into pipelines of just the most aggressive, rough, perhaps you would say wealthy form of masculinity, right? Like that's the most clear materialistic view on how to be a man, and there's not a huge focus on the virtue of man. I mean, the word vir, meaning man, virtue, is the qualities of being a man. The word itself actually is the qualities of being a man, and very many men don't focus on that. They don't think about that. The higher truths of the world, like kindness, compassion, steadfastness. Eh, doing something in spite of your feelings, right? There's not a huge focus or reflection or understanding that there is a spiritual power and beauty to being a male
What is
beyond that. And I
the
think that that's something
what is
You
the
want
that?
African
good
people.
good male role
Mhm.
models, like, look at Mr. Rogers, Steve Irwin, if you watch Modern Family, Phil, Keanu Reeves, if you've heard any stories about Liam Neeson or Robin Williams, there are plenty of male role models
Robin
that also have
Williams?
shown. Yeah, Robin Williams,
Yeah,
he's a
he
fucking
offed
great
himself.
guy.
Maybe he is.
Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know nothing about
he
that.
but
I don't know.
overall, he was a great fucking person. Yeah, just because you kill yourself, that doesn't make you a
I
bad
mean, I don't
person.
want
It
women
just
to go
means
down. Or
you
I
had
don't want men to
struggle.
go down that. I don't want to. Oh, look.
right.
Mhm.
No, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
also
that,
all those
but
people are dead.
they were
Like, can
still
you
the
name some good
Well,
male role
Keanu
models that
Reeves
are
is alive.
alive?
Yeah, Keanu Reeves
Keanu
is
Reeves is
alive.
still
Keanu
alive.
Reeves is alive. Yeah.
Liam
Hmm.
Nielsen, the guy from Modern Family, is still alive. Like it's a
Liam
mixture of
Nielsen is
both.
an
But there are
actor, isn't he?
yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
if
they
you
are all
actually look,
actors. Yeah.
if you look at his like life story, and if you want to see like he had like a good marriage, and she ended up passing. She died in an accident, but he was like with her since day one. There's prime examples. even in Hollywood or
I mean,
anywhere else of good men.
Cham, Cham, I can go one step deeper. You can find this in fictional media. You can find it historically, right? I believe, of course, that there are many examples of great wise men. King Solomon, just off the top of my head, right? Of course, they exist, but we're talking about the fact that there are a lot of young men who do not have that connection to King Solomon and seeing his wisdom. They don't have that connection, even to just like He-Man, right? And just learning from that example, right? They feel lost. They don't feel a respect for the higher virtues in the world. There's a huge focus on materialism. So although it
But
might be the case that they exist, that's not the focus, and that's a huge issue for very many young
I
men.
feel like almost
Yeah, go ahead.
everyone in the
and
world doesn't have a like or trying to figure out their own purpose in life. I mean, that's
Well,
not
then,
just a
so
that,
so
male
that's
then
that's
men
what
would
I
be
outlined.
included.
That's
So
that's what
so
I
men would
said.
be
That's what I was
included.
outlining.
Man and women, yes. I said
But we're
since
talking
day
about young
one, you
men.
guys.
We're talking about men right now. But because the other struggle is so there was a point, and this again because there is a level to which we can do a whole what about thing, and yes, it's a lot. Some of these things apply to men and women both. But in terms of men, because we are trying to talk about them at the moment, um, the struggle is some of the role models that they would have once looked to for guidance are also struggling to make their way through modernity and give them guidance because they don't get it. Like I had a phenomenal dad. He taught me everything I know about how to be a man, how to treat a woman. I grew up watching him treat my mother great, take care of the house, be respectful. I've never seen him put hands on my mom, do anything. So all kinds of good things, right? But even he struggles trying to make sense of the modern, like just general landscape of things. It's both technology and the way we interact with it, the way it affects the way I talk to women and meet them. He wants to know why I'm not married yet, right? He doesn't really have an understanding of how difficult things have become because when he met my mom, it really was just like that direct sort of they were both in that pipeline of we're gonna make a family as early as possible, right, or relatively early, right, and everything. So, um, I say that to say it's even not even as simple of identifying a role model because some of these role models, whether that be your father or another man you meet in life, they're also not 100% sure what to tell you to do, right? Because the advice they were given isn't the same advice they can give you, right? It's not the same world. They know it's not the same world, but that's about all they know. They don't know like what the right answer is. But they'll help you. They'll try. I'm not saying like they're not. There's a lot of older men out there who will make the effort. I think if there's anything you take away from this conversation, Jim, is that there's a lot of men that are struggling, and they're not struggling in a way to where they're like, if only women would get their shit together, then I could get mine together. Like that's not what's happening. They're genuinely confused, and
Do you
it's
think the
not just
opposite's
women that they're
happening,
confused about.
Cohort? Just to be clear, do you think that the
Yeah.
opposite is happening? That there's a sizable, it doesn't have to be all women, right? Obviously not, but
Mhm.
that there's a sizable portion of women who are simply blaming men for all their struggles that they're facing. Do you think that's a thing? Ruby's nodding. Ruby, do you think that's a thing?
Yes.
I think there are, and I'm another olive branch. I get why because if we're able to lead the way we want to, some problems just don't exist as much, right? If because so, I think the thing that's really interesting is women have taken up a lot more responsibility, a lot more autonomy, and that's great for them. I can see where there's areas where it's great, where I can see that they're having a lot more fun. They're able to live out more dreams, chase after things, whatever. But I also think there's a part of them that gets, frustrated when they encounter men that they now have to compete with and who are not exhibiting that leadership and that purpose and that drive that they want out of the men that they encounter. And the men that are struggling with that are also struggling in a way to where they don't even know how to bridge. They don't even know how to bridge the gap with the women and include them in the process of their betterment. And then we've already talked about how there's a whole bunch of women who don't even want to be included in the process. They feel like a man needs to figure his shit out and meet her when he has it figured out. So fix your shit, win, get me when you get past the finish line. And so I think there's a lot of women who they're frustrated as well by the state of things because if the pipeline still existed and it was still as strong, they would know where they're going to. Because men used to lead in that way. That used to be a primary role of ours, and to an extent it still is, but that we would provide some of the guidance, some of the direction in terms of leading the family and structuring things. And hey, I think we should move to California. There's better opportunities out there, and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that. That doesn't. We're all individual units now. So because of
Yeah,
that,
if I may,
yeah.
which I think is excellent, great point. I want to piggyback off that because he's 100% right. I'm just going to agree with him, but I'm going to add on to this. It's not just that the expectation that males still lead is 100% still on us. And if we don't meet that expectation, we're a failure. This is affecting our
Okay.
mental health by itself. It's affecting our ability to get into relationships with women. They still maintain the expectation that we have to have more than them in very many regards, not just physically, but of course economically. And yet, they're the ones who, as we put forth at the beginning of this conversation, are outpacing men in society. We have women who have higher economic ability and power, but they have the same expectation that males have to have more than them to take care of them and to lead them. If that be the case, functionally, how can
What
this world even
I'm gonna
exist?
let you
some
respond in a
what
second, Cham. I'm
some
gonna let you respond in a second.
wi-
Let me read these.
some women
Okay.
are okay with that.
Yeah, 300 bits from Wolf of Mandalore to say a men's health stream where women make it about them instead of the actual topic. It's almost like they don't generally give a shit and are more concerned with saying shit that they think will make the men upsetty spaghetti. Just something I'm noticing. Thank you for the 300 bits. $10 from Psychonaut to say the problem is that society has made itself less needing of quote unquote unspecial men. Every man seems to have to be an above average man, but when everyone is above average, no one is. And $2 from Stevie to say Short King Danny DeVito is a great male role model. Thank you for the $2. But
and so
Cham,
and
no,
that's
no,
the
no, no,
thing.
stop.
Okay,
Cham was gonna
I'm sorry.
respond. I'm gonna let Cham respond. Go ahead, Cham, respond.
Yeah. First of all, in all fairness, like this whole topic is actually about our men failing. I guess like part of the mental health is part of that. So this isn't 100% on like mental health, just FYI.
And so
Um.
now we can begin, right? We're an hour 30 minutes in. Let's get started. Because
Yeah.
you would say that males have failed, right? If women have higher economic power, then the men have failed to adhere to their role, right? You
I
would say
think
that.
men need to do one or the other. They need to step up, or they need to be
It'd be nice if
accepting
you just
that a
answered the
woman.
question.
What was the question? Well, I don't know. You just
If
talk a
you're
lot.
saying if you're saying that women have outpaced men, right? If men aren't matching or doing more than women, have they failed? It's yes or no.
Has that man failed? Each one is individually. It depends on what you're looking for. Don't
So for
expect
okay,
a
so
woman
first
with
create
high
okay.
standards to accept you if you have low standards. Everyone's different. I wouldn't accept a man that's like working at
So the answer to
McDonald's,
the question is
so
yes, that man has
but
failed,
someone else
right?
might. It depends on what you see as failure. Everyone sees
Well, then
failures
you
a
tell
different
me
way.
what failure
Yeah,
is,
Cham,
Cam.
you're
Cam,
making the
you tell
value
me.
you're making the value assessment. It is relative. You're right. You're making the value assessment. So you go ahead and make
Yeah.
it.
No, everyone's different. No, it depends on what you're looking for in if you're looking for a relationship or if you're looking for a partner, which most of you people are, it all varies.
Cham, I'm
For me,
sorry.
I would see it
My
as a failure,
Cham,
yeah, but
then you need to argue that position. You can't step back and be all like, well, it all just depends on how you feel or it
okay.
depends
All
on
right, for
no.
me it's a yeah,
Are
for
you
me it's a
okay?
yeah, for me it's a failure.
All right, so thank you. So now let me respond to that quote unquote failure. If feminists asked for women to be able to be in the workforce, have their education, have this economic power, and they successfully gave women this power, why don't women also take on the role of economically supporting their family? Why is a male a failure for not doing that when you gave women the ability to do it?
Women are doing that. Women are actually working
So then
while the
how are
man
men
is
a
also
failure?
working.
So how are men failures then, Jam?
I said not all men. I said for me, a certain
Hashtag
if
not all
you're
men.
wanting if you're wanting a traditional lifestyle, is that what you're wanting? What do you want? What are you expecting
Are
from
you
a
are
girl?
you asking me what
Yeah,
I
I am
want?
asking you.
Okay, what I want is a woman to love me and respect me and treat me well. That's it.
You
Very
don't want a
simple.
family?
Of
You
course,
don't
that
want
would be
kids?
included. It's a
Oh,
catch-all.
okay. You don't do you want a traditional lifestyle? Do you want her to
It really
work?
doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I'll be honest with
You're
you.
cool with it?
I am. My mom
Okay.
worked. My sisters work. I don't care.
All right, good, good. Most people, in regards to traditional lifestyle, they expect the man to work and pay all the bills. Men are no longer
Mhm.
doing that. They're now having to step up and also work. And then on top of that, there's this load of women also being required to take care of the kids and then have a job. And that's
But
where
but
a lot of
champ,
times I
that's
So
see
wait,
a
wait, wait.
failure of men.
That's not 100% true. So let's take a step back. So I'm not saying that doesn't exist at all. Like there's no woman that's like that. I'm sure there is. But um, so the part of the reason why that issue exists is because women want to be in the workforce. That is it. That was a huge part of what was fought for, right? And what is still currently being fought for. They still blame the wage gap of full-time employment, the fact that men make more. They still blame it on some brand of misogyny and Men still taking some kind of liberty in the workforce, right? So you guys want to be there, and you want to make as much as us, right? So I don't think it's not just that women are just they have to work because they have to take care of the kids, and men are not stepping up and they're not working, so that women have to do it. That's not what happened. We're all in the workforce now together. They want to be able to write their own ticket the same way as men do. But at the same time, we're still trying to create strong family units. Now, this is a problem that we have in America in particular. Not that we're the only country, but we're very fierce about our individualism. We're rugged with it. Like I need to be able to do whatever I want to do, and all these ascribed roles, and you telling me I'm going to
Based,
be a
actually.
housewife and I'm going to stay at home and take it. No, I'll do what I want to do. Okay, that's fine. But how do we navigate taking care of kids? You working a 40-hour plus week, or you having your own business, me also working, because as a man, I feel like I don't even feel like I know I need to, right? I know I need to, and I want to. It's not by force. I want to work. I want to provide. How do we navigate both of us doing that, and the kids getting taken care of, and the house staying clean, and dinner getting made? So these are the kind of things that modern couples are navigating. I think it would be unfair to boil it down to, well, women are willing to work and do literally everything, cook, clean, take care of the kids, work, and then men are just like, well, I'm good at McDonald's, and
I mean,
you figure it out.
that's a lot of times that's shown in the divorce rates. Why women are now leaving their partners and their men is because that is happening, where there isn't an equal share in the household.
Cham, this is what's so interesting to me. Let me just grant fully that be the case. Why can't women adhere to the role of being a leader and taking care of stuff?
They
Males
do.
did that before.
They do.
Before. Okay, so then what's the problem? Why are they divorcing their husbands if that is the responsibility they asked to
Because when
have?
all their responsibility is put on the woman and all the man has to do is work from 9 to 5, that's not an equal in the relationship or
It
in
was
the
never
marriage.
equal, Cham. It wasn't equal
Yes,
when the
it
mans were
was.
digging
Yes,
into
it
coal mines and
was.
coming home with black lung while
Yes,
their
it
wives
was.
stayed and washed clothes and took care of
Well,
the
times
kids. That
times have
wasn't
fucking
equal.
changed. Women don't want that anymore. More. They want a fucking partner. They want someone there. They don't want a father who's like, "Well, I'm babysitting my fucking kids." Women have changed to want a partner to help them and be a fucking
A
partner.
lot of
Why
women
is
still
that
want a daddy. I'm
controversial?
just gonna put that out there.
Okay. The reason
Um,
why it's controversial, to answer your question, right, is because what women are asking for is to have the
What are
power to
women
be
asking?
independent.
Please
I'm
tell
telling you.
me.
They
Okay.
want the power to be independent, right? But also have a man be equal to them and give and give and give from the male side into their cup, so to speak. The woman
No,
wants to be
they
able to
want
do what she wants
someone
to
that
do,
that
but
is
not be
equal.
adhered to the family. Now, you
They
say they want someone
want
to be equal.
equal.
Champ, how can they be equal if there's been a push to accelerate women's success, Cham? How can they be equal? If we have
What does that
affirmative
have to do
action,
with
we have
anything?
scholarships and
We're
education, it
talking
has to
about a
do with
relationship.
everything. So, okay, so in a relationship between two individuals, ladies have been accelerated and pushed to success. Males, not so much. If you've been accelerating and pushing women to be economically powerful, right, so to speak, but you're not giving that to males, how can men compete with that? How can men be
I'm sure
equal in
Cham would
this in
okay,
this
argue.
okay,
Argue.
society?
okay,
Point.
okay. Just real quick,
Sorry,
just
go
real
ahead.
quick. I gotta make a little money here. 500 bits from Wolf of Mandalore says the title of the stream implies that this stream is about men's mental health, how it's tied to their success and failures in society. Cham only seems to want to focus on her belief that men are failing because it's what she obviously most interested in, which again proves a point. It's clear this conversation is worth having, but not when certain women just see it as an opportunity to dunk on men. Thank you for the 500 bits. $2 from Matt and Zero to say Zerk is exposing the contradiction of Cham, and $2 from Soy Adel says few women allow men to care for their children. But I want to ask a question specifically to Darko, Cham, and Ruby. So we have this knowledge, right, that men are kind of in charge, right? The patriarchy exists. Well, I guess I'll just ask: do you guys all believe in the patriarchy? Do you think the patriarchy currently exists?
With the caveat that that's just how we evolved, that men tend to
Sure, sure,
want
sure, sure,
to
sure.
control women to
Okay,
ensure paternity.
but
I don't think it's an
you think
evil
it
plot, but I
you
think
don't think it's evil, but you
in
think
a
it exists. That's all I need. That's all I
in
need to know.
other countries,
I'm
I
not
don't think
getting.
it's a
I'm not at my
dominating force
question
in
yet.
the United States. No, not in the United States right now. If we want to narrow it down, it's
Okay.
not a big threat in my life whatsoever
Okay.
that I care about
Darko,
really anymore.
patriarchy, yes or no? Does
I
it
think it
exist?
does, but not to the same degree that it
Sure.
used to. Um,
Cham, patriarchy, yes or no? Do you think it exists?
Yeah, it exists, but I don't think they're I'm okay with hierarchy.
Okay, fair enough. So we have stats, and I was just linked this, and I looked it over just to confirm, right, that the majority of the culture, at least in the West, the majority of advertising, the majority of media and things, is based on female consumption habits. Men, to a much lesser degree than ever before. And in fact, again, just recently, this has been swapped where it used to be driven by men's habits, the male gaze, etc. Now it's almost entirely based. Well, no, that's overselling it a bit, but it's much more based on female consumption habits than men's consumption habits. So when we talk about men having positions of power and being in control culturally, how do you square that circle where women have, it looks like, much more cultural power? At least in the economic front, than men do. Go ahead, please.
I would agree that women are, for the first time, it's a very interesting time to be a woman, a very exciting time to be a woman, where we do in the United States. I mean, it's always very different story in other countries, whatever. In the West, we do, I think, for the first time in human history, at least for your average woman, we are in a privileged position over your average male in a lot of ways, because we are still benefiting from institutions like affirmative action, despite the fact that we have made those gains. And I think the most adult, most powerful thing to do once you've made those gains is to step into that power and also take responsibility for it and how it can impact other people, and realize, yeah, women are fucking powerful now. Yeah, we can hurt men and we shouldn't. Let's all talk about it and be on the same page with that. That's my
Thank
thoughts.
you. That's what I'm trying.
Anything
Thank you.
from
That was
anything
great.
from
Yeah.
Darko or Cham on this? Cool.
I'll let Darko talk first, I guess.
Oh, no, go
Or
for it.
do you?
Darko's got nothing. Cham, what do you got?
Oh. So, I kind of agree with Ruby. I also think, though, with that power that women have become, I think they're being more specific on who they're picking as a partner, in a relationship. And I think at the end of the day, that's okay. I think it's okay to want to think about your future father of your children, or your spouse, to be very picky and wait to find someone that is right, not versus someone when you're ready. And I do find a lot of men upset about that.
So
And
men,
yeah, I
yeah,
love buying power.
and this is to
Obviously, I
everyone.
like money.
Sure, and me too. And this is to everyone here. This is to everyone on the panel, to Xerxes, to Cham, to everyone. Okay. Um, what can men do specifically? We talked about some how women can support or not support. But if you had a son or a nephew or someone was just asking you, like, hey, I'm struggling here. I've tried therapy, hasn't worked for me. The therapist said I was dangerous or something, and she won't be my therapist anymore. I don't understand, right? Like, which has happened, right? A lot of women therapists won't see incels. Uh, what advice would you give to a man who is struggling mentally? Right? They're like, hey, I'm having a problem. I don't know why I'm struggling. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I've tried therapy, it doesn't work.
I'd be happy to
Yeah,
answer this first.
please go ahead.
Because I have a long storied history with mental health. It kicked my butt when I was younger. I was dealt with depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and I'm a lot better now. Completely different person, to be honest. And I think throughout that process, one thing that I had that not every young man has, is familial support, and a lot of it, my mom and my sister and my dad were there for me, majorly there for me. My mom was the one I went to when I was at my rock bottom, and she was nothing but supportive. So the first thing I would have to mention is that I can't make it seem like I found my way out of that hole by myself, because I didn't. Um, I think in the absence of that, in the absence of having that strong core, that strong support structure, you're going to have to navigate things a little bit differently. It's going to start with you stepping outside of yourself. It's going to be very difficult, because what you're going to want to do is ruminate on your problems. And if you're not ruminating on yourself, you're going online. Typically, right, in the modern age, you'll go online and you'll just read a whole bunch of shit and watch a whole bunch of shit, and just be inundated with information, and it's unlikely to get you to a solution for your personal problems, right? What you do need to do is talk to people, frankly. And that will be a therapist at some point, because therapy is good and it does help, and it is the first step before you talk about medicine. Before you talk about, there's two things I recommend: therapy and exercise. Those are two things that unironically improve mental strength, mental health, and will make your going through your day and dealing with the various stresses a lot easier to do if you seek out support and from those two avenues. But I would say, if you don't have someone that you can trust, a family member that you can go to and say, I can't figure out what's going on. I just don't get my life right now. I don't know where I'm supposed to be headed. I don't feel comfortable where I'm at. Um, Sometimes I wonder if I even want to be here. Whatever flavor of mental health issues that you're dealing with, if you don't have someone that you can go to for that, we need to find you that someone. And even if they're not the ideal person to start, we'll start somewhere, right? Sometimes it takes time before you find the therapist that you want or the person that you can talk to the best. But the main step is to not stay in your own head. Every man that I know that has devolved into an overly emotional, impulsive kind of wreck, or somebody who ended up doing something they really regretted, it was because they stayed in their own head and they didn't crowdsource information for how to deal with their problems
But
from people that they could trust.
just to touch on that before I let other people in here.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Ideally, that would be the case, but we understand, right? Why when a lot of men don't. To
Absolutely. I know why
express
I've been.
yourself as a man
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
is verboten. You will get shit
Mhm.
from all sides. If
Yeah.
if
for
I
sure.
made a post, for example, if I made a post on Twitter, and I don't mean to make this personal, right? I'm just any man, right? Any man, they make a post on Twitter about like, hey, I've had a shit day. I just got rejected. I just got dumped. I just lost my job. Whatever, right? There will be sympathy, but there will be a small but very vocal minority, right, of men and women, again, it's not a gendered issue, who will tell them, who will use that against them forever. It will be
Mhm.
clipped and will be shipped. I knew a man, a streamer, a fellow streamer, who once cried on stream. It was an
Yeah.
emotional moment. They cried on stream. That clip was posted to harass them over and over again wherever they went. I still see it come up now and again. Here, oh, remember this time you cried? And there you go. So you understand why, yes, that would be ideal, but men just don't. And it's not because they think they're weak for doing it, it's because they will be attacked for doing it.
And
It will
let
happen.
me answer that really quick, because I 100% agree. So, but even with the
Mercado
supportive family
Media,
that I
thank you
had,
for the raid. Appreciate it. Go anyway, continue. Yeah.
yeah. So even with the supportive family that I had, it took me a while before I could go to my mom or my dad or any of my friends about the problems I was having, because I was very afraid of both the ridicule, being told like, well, what problems do you even have really, right? Why are you being so weak about this? How could you even want to kill yourself? How could you even be thinking about being depressed? What is with all this anxiety? Where is this even coming from? Who did anything to you? Why are you hurt? Like these kind of things, right? And then from your perspective, you're thinking, well, I will tough it out because people are relying on me to tough it out. And I've been relying on myself to tough it out to maintain sanity. And I think what I've learned over the years, and this is the huge thing that I would tell any man, especially like a young man who's like, you're like 17, 18, going into your 20s, and you're so used to bottling things up. The weakness does not come from being open. The weakness comes from the implosion. All right, and possibly the explosion as well, right? If you really keep a bottle up for a while, that's where the weakness comes in. You don't let people down when you tell them the truth. Typically, that's not where like the main failure comes from. Where it comes from is when you don't tell anyone anything's going on, and then finally you reach your boiling point. You reach that point where it says, I can't do this anymore, and you're beyond logic. You're beyond rationality. You're beyond sitting down and getting that help at that point. Now you're already exploding or you're already imploding, right? So that's the situation to avoid, and the best way to avoid that is to take the lid off, and it will be uncomfortable. And some people might not be receptive to you being vulnerable, and they may say things you don't like. That is worth the risk, because the opposite side, which I've been to, the opposite side is you get more and more comfortable with hurting yourself, whether that be physically, verbally, negative thoughts in your head. You get more and more comfortable with attacking yourself, and you focus on the negatives and where you're failing, and that just gets worse and worse until you get into the like suicidal thoughts and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I would say.
No,
So
that's.
Yeah, yeah.
I almost don't want to let other people respond. I think that was pitch perfect. Um,
Right.
but I
Right.
do want to hear what other people have to say to this. So I just want to open up the floor more. Again, the question is, what do we tell young men or men in general that are struggling, that are feel that they have nowhere to go, nothing to say, no one's going to listen, and if they do speak out, they're going to be attacked for it. How do we address that? How do we fix that issue? Ruby, do you want to say something? Go ahead.
Sure. I feel like Cohort's made so many brilliant points just so eloquently. And bring it back to something he had mentioned earlier about like purpose that has such a huge connection to your mental health. It gets left out of the conversation a bit. This very fundamental human need for a higher purpose. And we used to have religions, it used to be they've fallen out of society. And a lot of religion, there's a lot of terrible aspects that come with it, but we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater of like all the things that it did bring to people struggling, solace, community, purpose. So we need to either bring back the churches. So I don't know. I didn't think I'd ever be saying that, but like something in regards to helping men find like a broader purpose. I think should be focused on, and everything Court said is
I'm
correct.
curious what Cham has to say to this issue specifically.
Why the bad guy?
Are you?
No, I'm always if it makes you money, right? Um, Cohort, I'm actually on the same page as him. I think the idea, you have to remember if you're seeking a professional, a therapist, or advisor, uh, you might not click with the first one. You might not click with the second one or the third one or whatever. It might take time for you to find someone to help you out, and that's okay. You need to find someone that you're comfortable with and you're fit for. And it's okay to fire your therapist. You're paying them. You have to remember that at the end of the day. So you have to be comfortable with them. You have to be comfortable with sharing with them.
Is
As
therapy?
Core
Hold
said,
on.
family.
Sure. Is therapist though the only like a lot of look other
I
than
think
therapy?
if you're going to a dark place in your mind, 100% a professional will help you. So someone like any of us, we don't deal with something like that. We don't know what to say. We're not in a position to give that kind of advice because we don't know like what to say or the right thing to say
Yeah,
because
but
we also don't.
it feels weird. And $10 from Psychonaut to say crowdsource men's issues is a manosphere more or less, and it gets demonized. Thank you for the $10. But
Yeah, he's got a good
to
point.
Cham specifically, like, so if I had a friend come to me, right, and they're like, "Hey, man, I'm going through all this shit," I feel like it would be almost insulting to say, "Well, I'm not a therapist. You should go get therapy." Like it would
Uh,
feel dismissive, right?
no,
Well, she is
but
being dismissive. She is.
how am I
That's
being dismissive if I'm telling
because
you to go
because
seek
instead because I'll tell
professional
you why.
help?
Because the person that came to you, I have to imagine, trust you. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes when people come to you and they open, they just need a little bit of that, keep saying it, grace, some understanding. And from that position, understanding
That's
that the person
great.
that I
You
care
can
about
sit
cares
there
about me
100%
can
and
push me
listen to
forward. Now
them.
hold on.
You
But
can
this is the
listen to
thing
them.
now.
That's
Hold on.
okay. But
Hold
at
on.
a certain
Hold
point,
on.
you need
Hold
to
on.
seek professional
And
help.
that might be the case, but we're talking about that first step, the first mover, right? And Champ, you're not even in your answer here. You're not even extending that understanding
Well,
to
you're
the
not
person.
letting me
You just
finish.
say, "Oh,
You just
I
cut me
don't
off.
know." Oh,
So,
but go ahead. I'll give you
Cham
that. Go ahead.
finish, and then yeah, that is true. Let Cham
y-
finish, and then you can respond.
yeah,
Hmm.
and I did piggy back off of what
Cohort.
cohort get fucked up by
Hmm.
the your F there. The O with the
Sorry.
slash is an F. um Um, and so you should go to family and friends, people that are going to support you. And if you have a friend that's like, oh, like just deal with it and shit like that, I think that's a big reflection of like what they are as a person and who they are as a person. And you should actually reconsider being friends with them because as a family and friends, you should support each other. And I'm going to change it with cohort. I think you should find also a distraction. Play video games, find something. I know people like Warhammer. I'm big into like building Gundams. Like find a hobby for yourself that gets you distracted on top of also getting the help you need. And that's okay. You should find a hobby.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I feel
uh,
like also another issue that like I don't know, like people don't talk about. There's like this emerging uh, phenomenon called normative male alexithymia, which is basically the fancy way of saying like struggling to feel your emotions because men aren't typically taught that in their childhood. Like, like if a young girl is crying, they're asked like what's wrong. If like a young boy is upset, they're like, shake it off, like, and just be fine. So men typically tend to have a harder time finding a good therapist that fits with them because they needed a more like guided experience because they just don't have the emotional vocabulary to like actually like express their feelings. And yeah, and kind of in the same vein, like men are also like not great at being friends. Like, almost no man has ever said like, hey man, like I'm glad, you dumped that, girl that wasn't treating you right and you've seen your worth and have, like found a partner
What?
that like loves you.
Hmm.
But like,
I'll
they're
give you
just like,
that
"Oh,
you
you're ripped,
haven't
bro."
seen it,
Like,
man.
or
No,
no,
hold
I
on.
have seen it, but I'm talking about like
Okay.
broadly on
Mm.
average, like 80% of men don't do that because that's gay.
What?
Um
Hold on.
Uh,
No. I gotta push back. Yeah, hold on. Nope.
Wait, you're
mhm,
an
mhm.
exception
No.
because you are like a kind-hearted human being, okay? Don't
Well, I
even.
am a kind-hearted.
But
That's true.
most
But
men aren't. Hold on.
Most
no.
80
Let me
80% of men
tackle this.
are
Let me tackle
okay.
this. Okay. So that's I've never look. It's a meme almost that if your girl breaks up with you, you got a boys' night. You go out and you fuck that bitch, right? And you say, no, she wasn't. You were so much better. It's like a meme, right? So to act as if, and this is what frustrates me, right? Is this idea that men don't have the emotional vocabulary capacity, as if they are like some kind of subhuman, right? This lesser species that has been stunted emotionally forever, right? It seems so
Nonsensical.
just not
I do think there's some
directly
merit
related
to
to
this
my
idea that
experience.
men struggle to name certain emotions because they aren't asked
We
about their
compartmentalize.
emotions as often. So why
yeah,
would
yeah.
they have that same ability? I think that's more what he's
Well,
trying to say, rather
hold
than
on.
like men are just stupid or
I think
I
we
think
talk about it
it's
differently.
understandable that like,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
do know men who have iterated exactly what he's talking about, who has said like they really really struggle to name their feelings, you know. So I think it's a valid thing that
Hold
men
on,
face, and we
but
can
Well,
talk
here's
about it in
the
a way
no,
that
thing,
no,
though.
no.
maybe
We
isn't
talk, and I'll
demeaning.
let you go through in a
Mhm,
quick second, Cersei, I
mhm.
promise. But I understand that we don't use the same words or language, or we don't deal with it the same as women do. I understand that, and that's valid. But we do deal with it, right? If you look at
But the
even
whole point is that it's not being dealt with healthily. That's what isn't that the whole point of the convo?
what
Like, or
what are men doing
Well,
that
that's the
are
assertion.
dealing with their men's health that is unhealthy? In what ways are men specifically dealing with their emotions in unhealthy ways in a general level, in your opinion? Go ahead.
I'd say broadly that men are, we're all human beings and we're constantly being bombarded with uh, advertisements, like sexual advertising, porn, all of these influences that are tempting. So when you're not, you're constantly being driven towards a state of unhappiness, of all these quick thrills that will bring you no true meaning or purpose in your life. And I think that men, um, fuck, I
So
totally forgot.
so
What was
sex
the
work and
initial?
porn.
I love sex for important. I think they're like need to be heavily altered, in
Okay.
extreme ways.
Cersei,
But
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I halfway did want to answer the original question. Maybe we'll get back to that a little bit. But to address this, there does seem to be I'm going to be honest with you, an ignorance that young women have on men's ability or men's desire to express themselves emotionally. And I think what a lot of women don't accept from go is that they are not very good at accepting male vulnerability. I'm going to be honest with you, right? This is going to sound goofy, but it's true. There have been times where I've gotten women to leave me alone because I've expressed myself emotionally. That gave them the ick and that made them stop communicating with me so I didn't have to ghost them. I did this a little scientifically so we can get here to this point where I can bring this up to tell you I have experienced this and I've used it. Unfortunately, I think women believe that men don't express themselves emotionally because a lot of men don't do it in front of them,
We
or
don't
we
do it to
only
them, yeah.
express like, yeah, we might only express, as they say, anger. They only express that rage. But that's obviously not true. My entire channel is me expressing myself emotionally and telling you guys my opinions and my thoughts. The entire manosphere is men expressing how they feel. There's so many different podcasts that a lot of ladies don't like hearing, is the case in point that when men say, I feel this way, you get upset with the clips, you get
So
upset
so
with their,
so
you get
so
upset
so
with them.
would you
So,
agree that I think it's a little bit of
mhm,
column A, a little bit of column B, and that so some women do have this very hyperbolic view that men just don't know how to communicate emotion,
yeah,
right? Which
hmm
is not true. We aren't always as good at it as them. Though sometimes I will say they confuse aptitude and like competence in expressing emotion with just being willing to trauma dump and be loud and front run their emotions, which is not
hmm
the same thing, right? So if
oh,
we're talking about
absolutely.
emotional intelligence to whatever
Hmm
extent it is a real thing and it exists, the ability to adequately communicate how you feel in a way that is measured and direct, right? This is how when you did this to me, I felt, right, using the I
hmm
language and all that, right? But I know it's a meme, but I felt this way, and I understand that the only reason you did that is because of this. But being able to do that is not the same thing as being is just yelling and being confrontational and letting your emotions kind of drive you. But yeah, so there are like a lot of men
yeah,
that could stand to learn better,
and I
to
can
get
I
better
can
at
sprinkle this
communicating their
in.
emotions. Yeah.
Because I'll give you the ghost 100%. I'll be honest with you. I think very many people in general. I don't want to go tit for tat, but I think in general people could do well to be able to become more articulate and expressive. But I think to kind of focus on here, and again, I'm gonna use a little bit of my own experience. There have been very many times where I have directly stated I didn't like the way this made me feel, and the ladies I would talk to, they would get defensive. They would say, well, you did this. I say, well, maybe I did. And my bad. I apologize. But you also hurt me in this manner. And they don't
Mhm.
respond to it very well. It becomes an argument. And I have to reframe and I have to say, hold on, wait. I can acknowledge my wrong, but you have to acknowledge your wrong. They don't want to.
It's
So
because
the
there's a
issue is,
fallback thing
go
that they
ahead.
can always go
Hmm
to that we can never go to with them, which is that and I'd love to hear Ruby and Cham's opinion on this. So when a man
hmm
is arguing with a woman, a man can never fall back on however. So a woman can always fall back on you're being emotional like a woman or some flavor of that. Where
okay.
she's like, why are you acting so weak? Or like, why are you being so sensitive? Like she can kind of insult his masculinity and like, why is this such a big deal to
hmm
you? Why are you so insecure? But he can't fully do that with her because she can always be like, well, I'm a woman, or I'm your wife, or I'm
I will.
supposed to
Okay.
hmm
be
That said,
right.
I do want to hear their response to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
hmm
yeah, yeah.
I would say that yes, that is one instance where women do have a quick out in that regard. I agree with you. Yeah.
Cham, do you agree?
I don't think you should ever dismiss your partner's feelings at all. I think if any woman or man is doing
Um,
that to you, I think that is a sign, once again, to leave. That's
so you just gotta leave most women, huh, Cham? So that
well,
comes back to me. How come women don't meet men halfway?
That is a very that in particular, Tam, is a very common thing. In particular, the why are you being so
Exactly.
sensitive? Why are you being so insecure? That one, I mean, I think most men, even without being in a romantic relationship, have experienced that kind of thing with
I
a woman,
I
where it's
don't
like,
know your ages, but like I
mhm.
feel like that's an age thing. Like when you're young, you do jump to that, but once you get to a certain older age, you get past that.
Well, the,
Um,
the problem is, champ, if your formative years are experiencing that, how are you supposed to get past that without a counter example of any woman or any person giving you that space?
I mean, I have to tell you, I have no experience in this because I actually listen to my partner. If he has issues, we talk through it.
Hmm
I would never dismiss my partner's feelings or history or anything like that.
Why
And I would
would you
never do
dismiss
that
a
So I'm gonna
strangers? Hold on. Why would you dismiss a
thank you, Wick.
strangers?
I was just about to ask that.
dismiss
Thank you.
what?
A stranger. So you'd give that respect to your partner. Fair. Why
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
you give that respect to Cersei or
Can
Cohort?
you Oh, I give it to Cohort, not Cersei's.
I know. Yeah,
What
we're
about
adversaries.
okay, so but why not?
Yeah,
Why not
I'm
give it to
being
Cersei?
biasy there. I don't know.
He just
Maybe
has
I
this
don't.
way about him. It's just fun to yell at him, really. So
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
this way about being right. That's what it is.
No, I think maybe it's
Okay.
I have less respect for you versus Cohort. If
Well,
you
it's
want to put
clear, but the question is why.
it.
Yeah, like
Why?
why is that?
Yeah.
Because I think for you, everything is, and I guess it's for me too. It's kind of a I've seen a lot of your videos and stuff, and the way your views on women is extremely like toxic. And so, in the back of
How
my
so?
head, I see. I mean, I could find break down some of your videos for. Well, To be honest, I only watched
Well,
it
I
through
think
Ruby's
you
videos,
do
but
have
it was
some.
Yeah,
Ruby.
well, there you go, right? And so this
Well,
is
no,
the thing
Zeus,
that's
you do
interesting.
have some like wacky ideas about women, like when we've
Hold
gotten
on.
Like
into
Can
what?
like
we
personal,
hold on? Stop!
Hey,
Stop! Stop!
like
Stop! Stop! Stop!
like you
Stop!
think
Stop!
your average
Stop! Oh
woman's
my
walking
God!
around
Oh my
300
God! Just
bodies and like all this crazy shit, you know, like
yeah,
stop!
you have
Stop!
crazy fucking.
Stop before we go. Okay, stop. Because this happened when I had Destiny on the other day. Okay, I asked the same question. I'm going to ask you now. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. But you're going to make these claims that he has wacky ideas on women. Fair enough. But you have to be specific and give me an example of a wacky idea he has about women. I'm going to unmute you now. And there you go.
okay,
Go
well,
ahead.
the first one that came to the top of my head because me and Cham were talking about it earlier is just his general perception of like women's body counts and how we interact with sexual market. And I will concede that it's a better market for women's being vastly. Not to say we don't have issues, but yeah, on a site like Tinder, I have a way easier time, you know, than a guy would. But I I feel like in general you have a focus on women are the issue, and I wish you would focus more on like solutions and male support and all those great things about the red pill community that I support and want to foster that
Well,
kind
then
of
let
space
me
for men,
explain.
you know?
Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. This whole conversation is a great example why, right? It is extremely easy for you and Cham to tell young men what they need to do to be better. The entire manosphere, in many different respects, the red pill always educates men on how to be better. Let me ask you a question, Ruby Cham. Who are the people that tell young women they need to be better people to the men in their relationships?
Michelle Obama.
I mean, I do think that women
So you're gonna
have to
meme.
I mean,
be
she no. I mean,
accountable,
like
So you're
that's
gonna
you know,
meme.
and
You're gonna
No,
give me a
have you
meme answer.
No, have you
no,
listened to
the thing
Obama,
is,
Miss Obama, and her comments on her marriage and relationship? She should be a prime fucking example. She's got a family. She's had a long ass fucking
She's an
relationship. Why
example.
would you not?
Does she tell
well,
young women they need to be better wives and
I don't
treat
know
young
if she
men with
does or
some
not.
respect?
Cersei, hold on, Cersei. Let's go with this for a minute because I'm not sure if she does or not. Cham, can you answer the question? Can you give us an example of where an Miss Obama has done this?
I would have to probably look up if you want an exact quote, but she's made comments on like what you can do in a relationship to make it last for so long. And obviously a lot because I don't want to just make something up. But I've
Okay.
heard her speak multiple times on relationships and a happy marriage and what you can do for your partner and all that.
So do you have?
Okay, so
Okay, go ahead, Cersei.
No, I do not have a
I'm
So,
gonna
time like
so
a
do
I need
women
to
have
defend
any
myself a little
equivalent,
bit, right?
anything at all resembling what men have in terms of the manosphere, right? Not just the red pill. I'm not just talking about the red pill. I mean like a dedicated movement to male self improvement that it does not only include trying to get girls, but also is more holistic in terms of becoming smarter, faster, more adept at various things. Gaining hobbies even is another thing, right? Not being boring, not just like playing video games and sleeping, and so like, do women have anything similar to that? Maybe would be another way to phrase the question.
what do you mean it's
Female
similar
dating
to?
strategy.
like we have a like
Oh,
we
I
have
have
like a red pill version of went for women
It
or
doesn't.
Oh,
not
like
even female
What I'm
dating
self-improvement.
saying.
strategies,
Yes,
Darko.
women
Not
are
even.
yeah
obsessed
there's
with self-improvement, I would say. I actually feel like women, it's a broadly like feminine market up until recently has been all about like how can you be better? And then look at Cosmopolitan for the
How
last
can
6
I
years has
make
been
my life better for
telling
me?
look at fucking Cosmopolitan has been telling women how to be good wives forever.
Yeah,
I agree that
for
exists.
me.
Let me just say.
How can I be a better wife for me
No,
so
no, no,
my life
no.
is better? Not my husband, not my children, for me. That's female
Well, couldn't you
self
flip it and
improvement,
say that?
unfortunately.
That's demented. Anyway, but what I will say is I agree that we do need a more updated form of accountability among women, and I'm trying to do that in my own little way of being a feminist who tries to be reality based and genuinely progressive, as in progress this fucking conversation past this idiotic point we're at on fucking Twitter and all that shit, and just really hear each other out. And I try to do that. I know I get revved up, but I broadly, I
Yeah,
love Zeus. No shade.
yeah. No, I'm
Even though
glad,
you're a
man. I'm
little
glad. I'm
asshole
glad.
sometimes.
Yeah, but it's all in good fun. So the reason why you probably have seen me say that women are the problem is not actually because I believe women are the problem in isolation. It's because I recognize women have a large amount of power and they have very little responsibility. Now, instead of sitting on and thinking about that, there's a knee jerk reaction where you're like, no, you think of all of the victim parts of femininity and how men have done something. You don't sit and think about the fact that a lot of men feel powerless when trying to relate to and talk to and understand women. There is no grace or understanding. The reason why I come in and I harshly criticize young women is not because I don't like them. It's quite the opposite. It's because I love them. It's because I want their relationships to be better. The truth
Then
of the matter is,
shush.
Cham,
Then
and let
look at
me
how
wrap
you're
up with this.
messaging and how you
Let me
talk.
let
When
me
you
let me
talk
hold on. Let me
like
wrap up. Let me wrap up
it doesn't
and
seem
and,
like you're
and point to
addressing
Cham
women, you know?
to one more. Let me wrap up
It's
the Cham
not.
and point out one more time. The truth of the matter is, Cham, there are very many men I do not think women should touch with a 39.5 foot pole. The only problem is they want to touch them. There's a lot of gangsters, there's thugs, there's men that will abandon their families. And listen, I will even give the ghost. If a dude is in the bottom of his basement, he's not trying, don't touch him with a 39.5 foot pole. The issue is very simple, right? If women are the ones who are selecting these males to be the father of the next generation, someone's got to tell them to do something different. We have all the smoke for men to do something different. Why is it wrong for me to say ladies should do something different?
Okay. Okay, gang. It's 10 minutes over the hour. We have had a robust discussion on this, gang. It's everyone's favorite topic. Everyone loves discussing this topic. People ask me, why do you keep doing these topics? It's because every time I do, I get like 200 fucking viewers and like 500 fucking bucks. Okay, so you guys love this thing. Don't lie. But I do want to wrap up and let people know that we have some great shows coming up. If you've liked this stream, if you've enjoyed this content, then hit that like button. I'm going to read these last super chats. Then we're going to give each of these lovely individuals an outro. Now, I've put all links that they've given me. If they've given me a link to something, I've put it in the description of this YouTube video. So when you're watching this, you can click on the description and you can click on the links and you can find them and you can follow them. And I hope that you do, whether you like their stuff or hate their stuff. Please, they've taken their time out of their day to be on my show, and I'd appreciate it if you, yes, you, dear viewer, gave them a like or subscribe. So let's read these last super chats and let's get to it. Okay. $2 from Stevie to say, ask a woman what music she listens to. Thank you for the $2. Zephyr Hash for $5. Let's be honest, the only word missing in men's emotional vocab is rebound sex because it's an impossible emotion to achieve for men. Thank you for the $5. And then $5 from Pursuit of Knowledge to say, I think it's hilarious that we have someone like Cham who calls men pussies. Guarantee she causes men mental health issues more than helps. Okay, and with that, we're going to go into closing statements. Gang, if you like this content, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on Twitch or on Kick, hit that follow button. Tomorrow's going to be call-ins or something simple. Wednesday, we have the Trump trials. We're going to have Rob Knorr, Pisco, Josiah, Gibbs, Lactoid. It's going to be super fun. Rashad's going to be there too. It'll be fun. Check it out. It's going to be awesome. Thursday, we're going to be talking about Wizards of the Coast and some nerd shit, okay? Is Wizards of the Coast been good for the hobby or not? We got Ginger Blast coming on. We got Radhom. Real Radhom will be here. We have Pontius Glaw. It should be a fun discussion. And with that, I'm going to pass it off, and we're going to do the reverse order which we started. We're going to go Xerxes first, Cham last. Xerxes, close us out. What you got?
So, I don't think that males have failed in the way that Chan would project. I actually think, shocker, it's young women that have failed. They were given the power, but they refused to accept the responsibility to give young men grace, compassion, and to help them get to a better state in life. They use the grievances that maybe they have accrued, or they use the grievances of the past, say, whatever form of history you want to go on. We don't need to discuss it specifically, but they use the history of the feminist past that males oppressed them and harmed them, and males did XYZ. So instead of giving grace and kindness and help to the men that need it, they decide, nope, too bad, so sad, figure it out. I'm doing better now. You need to get to my level. Instead of being heroic and saying, listen, I have the power now, so I shall help you, as that is what people with virtue do. And again, I will say that I think it's more young ladies that have failed men than in reverse. I'll end there.
Gang, thanks for going. Again, links to his stuff is in the bottom on the description. Just click on that link. He has a lot of videos. Yeah, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you, man. Ruby, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. I enjoyed talking to everyone. I like hearing from all different perspectives. And I used to be a lot more hardline in my feminism and have a lot more animosity towards men. And I, I entered male spaces like, incel forums, manosphere, and like watching like seeing what the men are into with this desire to like debunk it and show how fucked up it is. And instead I ended up learning more about the struggles that men face, the communities that they're trying to build around that. And it's unfortunate that the most toxic elements are what reaches most of what people see, like, from the outside. So I completely understand why there is the frustrations that Cham feels about um, because it does kind of feel like women have been shit on for millennia, and now the second we got like one gay, and the men are like, "What about us?" I get how it can feel like that, but I do think that women are in the West in a position of power. I don't think Xerxes is wrong when he says that, not in every way in all arenas all the time, but we are for the first time on a more equal footing, and I do think that we should rise to the occasion and be better than we might think that men would be, because I think we could all be better, and that's a worthy goal. So
Gang,
I'll end on
check her
that.
out. I have a link to her stuff, her YouTube channel in the description. If you liked what she said or if you hated what she said, please give her a follow and reward her for her time. Thank you for being here. Always appreciate you, Ruby. Uh, Dr. Darko, please.
Yeah. I feel like men are falling behind, and a lot of it is not our fault. Society is setting us up to fail, which means we have to work harder to overcome these obstacles. And we gain nothing from like blaming society or women or victimizing ourselves. Like I don't know. I feel like a lot of that is a waste of time, is kind of misguided, and we should focus on actually doing change. That'll help us.
Gang, check him out. I have a link to his Kick channel in the description. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Cohort, please.
Yeah. So by some metrics, men are obviously falling. They're still earning more median income, but the gap is definitely closing. They're earning degrees less. They're missing certain milestones, and they're struggling to interact fully or fruitfully with women. But the devil is in the details, right? Women have gained a lot through their increased autonomy, right? But their priorities have also changed. And in that process, men have kind of struggled to alter their priorities as well, retain purpose, and still find ways to also retain like the traditional expectations while bringing on board the modern ones as well, right? So they're still expected to be leaders. They're still expected to be um, able to protect and provide to a certain extent, despite the fact that they're now in competition with women in the workplace to do some of that. They're also expected to be more emotionally intelligent while also being told that being vulnerable at the wrong time is a problem. So there's some competing things going on that they have to deal with. And I think if there's one thing that women could take away from a conversation like this, it's that they are not only incredibly powerful and that they can gatekeep sex and relationships, they can also alter for the good, for the benefit, men's behavior and encourage them with the slightest of actions. Like you hear men joke all the time about how a woman will smile at them and it'll be like a core memory for like the next several weeks, or a woman will compliment them and it'll stick with them, or a woman will give them the time of day just to listen and it'll stick with them. There are very small things that you can do to support a man through his journey to be better. And if you encounter a man like that who is showing that kind of ambition, that kind of drive to work on his mental health, his physical health, his life, and you recognize everything that we've discussed today about how they're falling behind and they need that support, definitely provide it. And I would say the same thing in the reverse, right? Because obviously women have their own set of unique sort of modern struggles, and men should support them through that as well. Um, so yeah, and in terms of finding me, I forgot to give Wick a link, which is stupid. Cohort is dead is my Twitter handle. Very simple. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, check him out, gang. And yeah, I need a link if you want me to promote your shit.
Yeah,
Okay, just
yeah, no
gotta
big
just
deal,
gotta
no
let
big
that
deal.
out.
Yeah.
But no, Grang, I'll probably use you in a clip of tonight's channel. I think your statement earlier on how to handle men who are seeking out help was pitch perfect. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Last but certainly not least, and the person responsible for this panel because she's the one that brought it to me, the woman
Yeah.
everyone loves to hate, Cham. Go ahead.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm hopefully gonna get 100% tonight. You know what I'm talking about. Um, but
No, but okay.
so V Rising. um, so in regards to the chat we had today and all that, I think at the end of the day, as I said, men need to be more supportive of each other and accept that they need to get help. I also don't think you should expect people to put that other people to put that mental load on. You can expect them to help you and support you, but for them to like do something like that for them. Fuck, sorry. I'm like listening to conversations. I'm so sorry. All right, let me start
It's your
over.
closing statement.
I know. Like I got distracted. I'm playing video games. That's, number one at the end of the day. Sorry. I know you're gonna hate me. At the end of the day, man, go get your mental health checked out. Don't fucking bully each other or your fucking friends and call them gay or whatever. Support each other. Find family and friends that will support you. If they don't, fuck them. At the end of the day, and but also don't get mad at women if they're expecting higher standards for themselves because they've put themselves at a certain standard. Like at the end of the day, don't get upset when women have certain standards and you're not meeting them, but you expect them to lower their standards for you because some women are not willing to wait. They're ready for someone then and there.
Okay. Cham, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Gang, it's been a great day. We're going to raid out to Prime Kai right now. Gang, if you're new to the channel, and thank you again, Andrew, for the raid. I really appreciate it. If you've liked this content, or even if it seems interesting to you, we do shows all the time, usually 3 to 5 times a week on a wide variety of topics, from gender wars to politics to foreign policy to nerd shit. It's a variety stream, gang, but it's always conversation. It's always discussion. Once again, we have tomorrow 6 p.m. We're gonna have Collins. Be nice, chill, relaxed. Wednesday is gonna be on the Trump trials. Thursday is gonna be on some nerd shit, and we might have a trans debate with Lav on Friday. Tune in. Okay, with that, we're gonna go out. Bye bye. Wait, bye everyone. Bye. Bye bye.
Bye bye.